It's that time again, everybody. Welcome to the stream. My name is Kismet, and we're here for a special stream, everybody. We're here for a bonus stream about 3D animation. We're going to teach you a bit of the basics of using a free program called Blender. So feel free to download it in the background and follow along with me, where I'm going to give you some of the basics. Literally save you hundreds of hours that I've spent learning 3D animation and learning the various different programs. I'm going to teach you more about concepts than about individual programs themselves. I feel like concepts are the most important thing to learn first, and then it doesn't matter what program you use. You can use any program. Now, I happen to own one of the most expensive programs for 3D animation called Maya. It costs around $4,000 when I had that kind of money back in the day, everybody. That was nice. Way back in the day. But I still own it to this day. I bought it years and years and years ago. But it is very, very complex, and you really have to know a lot of how to do stuff and link stuff, and you spend a lot of time figuring out how to do something more than actually doing something. And I feel Blender works more like the way I think as an artist, the way it makes it really, really easy to do some stuff. Now, getting started on it is pretty tough because you have no frame of reference. You don't know what the keys are. You don't know how to get here, there, and everywhere. And how do I do the thing that I want to do? And instead of spending 500 hours looking all that stuff up, I'm just going to download all that knowledge to you guys and let you guys go ahead and do it. And we're going to create a little special project tonight just to give you a bit of the basics, just for a little bit. We're not going to go for 12 hours, hopefully. Hopefully not. But we're just going to go for a little bit, get you guys the basics, and I'm going to transfer that knowledge to you, and then you guys can go do amazing things with that and get you started, get you going as it is. Now, of course, the internet is always an incredibly great resource for all of that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and pull you guys up right over here. There you are. Put a 1 in the chat if you can't see and hear me. Otherwise, I said all that for nothing. We've got, or not. There we go. Why's my thing not coming up? Oh, it's all busted. Did it not load? It should have loaded. I don't know. I don't know what the problem is over there. It's always something. But I got Blender loaded, and we're going to get it going here in just a second. Hopefully it loads. We're going to find out here in a second, aren't we? But yeah, we're going to get into it big time. Now, remember, no matter what level tier subscriber you are, you do have a 1 emote, a 1 right here. You get all of these viewer emotes on top of all of these. If you are a subscriber, you get all of those. But even as a viewer, you get a whole bunch of my base emotes, including the hi, the GG, the tip hat, the salt bot, Mr. Salty Bot, and then, of course, a 1 right there. So when I do ask for a 1 in the chat, just go ahead and use your cool emote right there. So I appreciate everybody being here. I see a bunch of peeps in the chat. See, Gork's the first person I see in the chat using his awesome hype emotes and tycoon dance there. Absolutely stoked for the Blender tutorial. Well, get ready. I'm going to teach you all the best stuff that you need to know to get started. Remember, this program is free, so download it. I'm going to let you use the power of free, everybody. Now, I've spent tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars on software for 3D animation, like the stuff you see behind me, my desk here, and all that kind of stuff. I did all that stuff originally in Maya, and then all the stuff you see now, all this, and all the startup screen, all that stuff, that's actually all animated in Blender. Amazing. A free program that does this kind of powerful stuff. Now, of course, you would need the really, really high-end stuff. Of course, you need the higher-end programs. But, for getting started, doing little things that I do, Blender is more than enough than what I need. And the problem is when you don't use those skills, too, they do get rusty. Like I was in there just kind of fooling around a little bit today to kind of get I like to have a central direction of where I'm going here on stream. I do that, by the way. I do spend a lot of time pre-planning each and every stream ahead of time with just some general things that I want to cover while I'm streaming. And I feel like the streams always go better that way. You put a little extra effort into it. And then Rotisserie G coming in, showing some love. What up? Oh, and what up, Brando? I saw you there, Brando. What up? That's Mr. 9, you coming in, bringing in that love as well, bringing in that Kismet love train. Gorks with the awesome pointing emote there. Brando putting a 1 in there. Sita putting the original 1 in there. And then Gorks with the 1 as well. Appreciate that. Let me go ahead and shower you guys with some love right over there. Let me check on my Twitter over here and see how you guys are doing on them retweets, because sometimes you guys just absolutely crush it. Stupid authentication stuff. Every time my my Stream Deck goes and changes my name on Twitter. I got to re-authenticate myself. I finally figured out what was causing that. It's so obnoxious and annoying. There we go. All right. Yes, we're at 2 right now. Go ahead and show some love, everybody. I'll go ahead and throw that link right there in the chat. Shredded Flex coming in. Thurbrick ready to go as well. Thanks very much for coming in, everybody. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm excited to get into it. Now, again, we're not going to spend 12 hours on it. We're just going to give you all the basics so you can go in and say, oh, that's how I do that thing. Oh, that's how you do those basic things, right? So I'm going to get you in, show you a bit of modeling, show you a little bit of that, a little bit of texturing, how to do some vertex groups, things like that that are really going to help you no matter what 3D program you're using, but basically get you started, download all the many, many years of knowledge, of 30 to 50 years of knowledge of computing and 3D design and architecture and all of that stuff that I've learned over all the years. We're going to at least give you a piece of that. That's way too much to do in one stream, but we'll go ahead and get you started. Let's go. If I only had a nickel for every time OBS screws me over here on the stream. Put a 1 in the chat if you can't see it, hear me. I guess we're going to try this again, everybody. We're going to try this another time because things are broken. Not because of my fault. I didn't touch nothing. I was working on a whole bunch of other stuff. Let's see. Yeah, there it goes. Okay, now it's working. Yes. Always the way it goes, everybody. Always the way it goes. Yes. That's the way it goes. Okay, let's stop screwing around. Let's get into it. Let's go. Yeah. Oh, and I vanished. Oh. Bring me back. There we go. So yes, not good, everybody. Not good. That's an OBS problem. It wasn't detecting my source of my my capture card, and that's probably because my main machine was started up before my other machine, or maybe there was an update or something and it got screwed up. I don't know. I don't care anymore. I don't care about the technical reasons why. I just want to do the thing. All right, everybody, let's dive right into it. This is Blender. Now, Blender, again, is free. You can download it for your Windows PC, so feel free to go ahead and download it and follow along with what I'm doing. Now, what you're going to be greeted with is this giant block. Sometimes it'll be zoomed in like this or zoomed out. And you're going to see these 3 different elements here, which are the 3 basics of a 3D that you're going to need to know. And that is your actual objects or object. Get away from me, Microsoft Update. You hear I try to update in the background. Oh God, I just swear to God, it's like these unnecessary hurdles that have to be put in front of me when I'm trying to do nice things for other people. All right, there we go. So we got the cube right over here. We've got a light up here, and then of course we have the camera. Now, if we want to look through the camera, we just hit the 0 on the number pad. Now we're looking through the camera, just like that. Also, the number pad's going to give you different views. You got your basic orthographic front view, and you can tell way up there. And I'm going to be, this actually is 1920 by 1080, but normally I'm in 4K whenever I'm doing 3D animation and stuff. So it'd be even smaller then. So you have different ones. So you have your front view, which is probably, other than the camera view, your front view is a good go-to view. Then you have your perspective view, which is number 2. Number 3 is going to give you a right side view. Number 4 is going to give you a user perspective. 5, orthographic. 6, 7, 8, 9. You get the idea. Now, the ones I use the most, of course, is the camera view. And if you can tell you're in camera view because you have this kind of gray area around the outside, right? So your camera view is also known as your render view. So typically you render from your camera, and that's because you want to get a perspective, right? You have different types of perspectives. You have different types of lenses and things like that that you use for wide angles and short and close-ups and all that kind of stuff, 35 millimeter, 50 millimeter. We're not going to get into all of that. But we're going to just stay with our standard view here, our standard camera view. And so what we can do is we can actually modify how the camera goes. Now, we can modify the camera from within our perspective view because we can jump out to perspective view, and we can actually control that perspective by using your middle mouse button. So if you have a scroll wheel, you press down on that scroll wheel, and then I'm moving with that scroll wheel. That's how I can basically orbit around. I'm kind of orbiting around the object, and we can see that the camera is facing from this direction, and it's looking over there. Now, you might notice the different lines. These lines, of course, are your different axes that you, if you ever took geometry or anything like that. I'm not going to get into any geometry, everybody. We're going to keep it nice and simple, all right? We're just going to tell you that this green one here is the Y direction. This red one is the X direction. And, of course, the other direction, the straight up and down, would be your Z direction. Right? So important to know that because different programs actually have different Z directions. Sometimes the Z direction is flipped to where the Y direction is. I prefer the Z direction to always be up based on the grid. That's how I like doing it. That's how it is default here in Blender. And I think it's the best way personally. Now, of course, there's reasons to change the directions and all that stuff. We're not getting into that either. We're just getting into the basics. So we have an object, we have a light, and we have a camera. So the first thing you're going to want to know about is your views. So again, just 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 on your 10 key. If you don't have the 10 key, you can also go up to your view menus and you can adjust your cameras and your different viewpoints. You can go up here and you can see it says up there under view and then viewpoint, camera, top, bottom, front, back, left, right. You get the idea, and then you can learn the hotkeys, which I suggest you do, which again is just your thing. Just your perspective views. And again, one of the ones that you do want to do is learn how to orbit around with the middle mouse button. Now, also there are modifiers to adjusting your view and getting around your view. And that's holding down Shift key. Shift key will slide your view. This is called panning, right? You're panning the view. This is orbiting the view. This is panning the view. All right. Scroll wheel zooms in. Scroll wheel zooms out. All right, now you got some of the basics, all right? That's going to be your most important thing, how to orbit around to see it from the way you want to see it, how to switch views and how to see straight-on views. Orthographic views are awesome for lining things up to make sure you got it where you want it to go. 3D views are good to see if it's how thick it is, how long it is, if it matches up in the three-dimensional space, in the Z space, with other objects, all right? And then, of course, your camera view is more for like when you're going to render it and whatnot. Now, we're not going to get way into rendering and heavy into texture and lighting and all that stuff today. We're just going to give you the basics of getting around, right? So your views are going to be your number one thing that you want to know, how to modify those views. And now that you know how to do that, you're already three-quarters of the way. That's the hardest thing in any program is understanding how to get the right view for what you're trying to do. So if we wanted to go ahead and move this and align this to another object, we could look at it from the side and we could move it up and down. Maybe we want it to be right along the x-axis here, which is this red line. We could go ahead and move this up so it's sitting flat on that axis, right? So it's above or below. There's a positive number. Again, if you remember from geometry, there's a positive number and there's a negative number, right? So if you're moving something above the origin, which is where all those lines come together, then you're going up, which is going to go above the grid. And if you go minus, it'll go below the grid, right? Now, one of the ways to move it is to simply use this little thing that's up here in the corner. You actually hit N like Nancy, and boom, it'll pop that up, right? So you can transform up here in the corner. Now, you can also transform using your G key. Now, I'll just jump right in, everybody. I don't mess around. You see, I just jump right in. I don't pad it for 45 minutes. I hate videos that go on and on. I just get to the point. That's how I like videos. All right, so you just hit G, and that's going to allow you to move your various objects. You got to click the object first. Then you hit G, and then allow you to move it. Now, you see it's not moving very constrained. It's moving up and down and left and right. But if I just wanted to move it up, in the Z direction, I would just actually hit G to move, because that would just basically go to the move tool and say I want to move this object or any of the other objects. If I had a bunch of objects selected, I can move them all together. Then I can hit Z and watch it snap. See how it shows your Z axis there? And then I can just slide it. I'm not holding any buttons down, just pushing the mouse forward and backwards. It's now locked on that Z grid, and I can move it up so it's sitting right. Oh, or not. If I accidentally bump it, my mouse is super sensitive. Let's try that again. Boom, right there. And then when I'm done, I get it where the way I want. I left click. Now it's right there. And again, middle mouse button allow you to go into that 3D orbit mode, right? So I'm holding the middle mouse button down, I'm pushing forward, I'm pulling backwards, I'm left, right with the mouse, you get the general idea. And so we can see that it's now sitting right on top of the grid in that positive way. Now, also, if we go up here and we look in this upper right corner, we can see that's not quite perfect. If we actually put a 1 there and hit return, now it is exactly on the grid because the size of the box, the height of the box is 1 meter. Now, another thing I can tell you about this box in Blender is this is a great frame of reference for your size, for sizing objects. If you import stuff and you see that it's really, really tiny compared to this box, you're going to have some problems, okay? So if you bring stuff in and whatnot, use this box as a size reference to get you started. As 1 meter tall, and you can work at size in Blender if you want. Say you got something that's 50 meters tall, you need 50 of these boxes to be 50 meters tall. Now, if you don't know what meters are, everybody, those are the other measurements that us in the U.S. don't know much about. Now, I know all the measurements. Why? Because I'm a graphic designer, and you got to know all the measurements of all the places in the world, because you never know where you're going to send that design. And so if someone says it needs to be 15 centimeters this way and 470 millimeters that way, then you got to make it the thing, right? You got to make it the size. Very, very important. So we're going to get into it. Don't need to hydrate right now. I just did before I did think, but I'll keep it up there for a second. And so this just gives you a basic idea of how to move around and how to move your objects. And again, we could also just kind of show you in 3D where we hit G, and then you can see I can just kind of free move it, or I can hit X to snap it to the X grid. This way, right? So kind of left and right. And then Y, I can just change the grid going the other way. And notice how it snapped itself back to the center where it was, and then it lining itself up along the Y grid. Right, now that's going to be super useful, everybody, because obviously you're going to want to move some stuff around and arrange it in a certain layout, or maybe you might want to take some objects and cut them out of other objects and things of that nature. Now, this is a 3-dimensional object. All objects are made out of basic primitives. Basic primitives mean squares, triangles, and circles. Like my head is really an oval. And if you're going to draw my head, you would draw it as an oval, right? See the outline of my head? Ooh, it's like an oval. And then you would go ahead and start drawing the angle of my jaw. My eyes would be circular, right? And so you would just start seeing after that, my nose is a triangle. Right? You just got to see the whole world in a new way. Walk around everywhere you go, everybody. Next time you go to the store, look at everything as circles and triangles and squares. And you'll be surprised how many things are in those shapes. And you could draw them by just drawing those simple shapes. And then, of course, you would refine them after doing so. So you would draw an oval, you would draw some circles, you would draw a triangle, you would draw basically a square for the mouse, and then you would refine it, and so on. And that's a great way to learn to be able to visualize objects and how to use them also in 3D. Because we can use objects that you wouldn't think would be this other object, right? And we're going to do that today. We're going to use a circle to make a triangle. I'm going to blow your mind. You ready? I hope you're ready. I hope you're ready. For sure, for sure. There you go. You just found it. How do you get the transform window inside your viewport? N. That's N, or you can just click it. It's right here, this little thing right over here. You can just drag it out, and you can adjust it right there. It's a little tiny triangle right over here at your XYZ. Now, by the way, this is also a view adjuster in this upper right-hand corner, right over here. Now, I'm the type of person, everybody, that goes way above and beyond. I mean, I go next level up in here, and I have been for the last 9 years. And I'm going to really show you some cool stuff the second I find out what I did with it. Where did it go? Why can I not find it? It's over here. There you are, the mighty Kismet red arrow. There we go. Now, look, this is made in a $4,000 program called Maya. And check it out. It's even transparent. Isn't that cool? Now, right up here is where I'm talking about, everybody. Right up here is where that little symbol is going to show up. You hit N like Nancy. You're going to see it right up there in that little corner. You'll see that little, actually, it's a little bit more over, like right over there, like that. You get the general idea of that. Actually, remove my stuff around a little bit here so I can actually bring this up a little bigger. There we go. That'll help me fine tune it. There we go. Right over here. So you'll see this menu slide back. It's right there where that little arrow is. Also, right here, this little thing here with all these kind of X, Y, Z's, that's this right here, and you could use that for orbiting as well, though I think you should definitely get used to just using your middle mouse button. But if you don't have a middle mouse button, you can also use that thing right up there to get you going. All right, that should help you a lot. Hey, I appreciate great questions, by the way, and I reward people for great questions with 1,000. Oh, did it go? There we go, with 1,000 kids caps to the chat. There you go. That's OG right there, everybody. That's old school right there. So there we go. So we hit N to pull that thing up. This is going to be super useful. I keep it up all the time because it is very useful for moving the thing. Now watch this, as I can go ahead and reset it back to its original position simply by resetting these numbers. And now it is sitting below the grid is where it originally started. Right? Now say you want to rotate it. Well, you can also use this to rotate over here as well. And then you can be very precise. Or, I know, crazy idea. You could just hit S, oh, sorry, not S, R, sorry, R to rotate as well. Now, of course, you're like, I screwed up my box. How do I get it back the way it is? Well, you just set your rotation back to 0. And it goes right back the way it was before. And again, use that middle mouse button to orbit, or you could use this up here to orbit, whatever you feel like doing. And so we can actually adjust this. Now, not only do we have the location and rotation, again, R for rotation. Right? So we rotate however we want. What if we just want to rotate it along the x-axis? We hit R for rotate, x-axis, and now you got it linked to the x. What about we want to do it on the y one, right? So we can change our mind in the middle. We can just say y, and now it's going to rotate along y. How about z? You know what's going to happen. Boom. Now we can just rotate along z. Of all the things that you're going to learn, everybody, that is the most important thing. Remember, G is for move. I got to move this thing. Remember that. Put it as an acronym in your head so you remember. I got to move this thing. That's G for move, and then you hit X, Y, or Z to link it, right? Then the same thing with rotate, R to rotate, X, Y, or Z. And then, of course, if you don't want to use it, you just don't hit any access, and you can just rotate it however you want. And then the same thing, of course, I can hit escape to cancel. And then I can hit S to scale, and I can scale it up and down. And this is going to scale it in 3 different directions, right? X, Y, and Z by default, all 3. And you can see it happening up there in the panel as well. Or if I want to scale it just in one direction, say the X direction, oh, well, look at this. Now I got the power to go along there. Or maybe I changed my mind. No, I want to do Y. Or maybe Z. Just like that. I'm showing you one of the most powerful things. Now, remember, this is very similar to really all programs have this type of things. Now, is it exactly the same keys? Probably not. Probably not, depending on how old the program is and whatnot. But you could always set the keys however you want. But the most important thing to know that it does do it, right? If you know something does something, that means you have the power of that knowledge. You know that you can scale that easily by each of those grids. Boom, you're off and running. You're good to go right there. And again, the understanding those 3 basics, right? Moving, well, really views. View is the best one. How to move your views, moving, rotating, and scaling, right? Those are some of your basics you're going to need to know to just get started in everything that we're doing. And that it basically is the original cube. And again, if I want to have that scale back to the original thing, I go right up here to my transform box, set it right back to the original, and it's good. Now, there are some things you can't undo. We're going to talk a bit about organization, how to organize your files, and how to, if you screw up or you say, this isn't what I like, I want to back up to some of my previous thing. I'm going to show you how to save stuff along the way, how to back up items, and how to use your different, backups to pull that forward again and then reuse it and then go a different direction. Because a lot of times you'll iterate on stuff like, okay, I'm at this part. I need to back this up because I'm going to do a bunch of stuff to it. Okay, I'm going to try this. I don't like that. Delete it. Make another copy of your backup, modify that one. Okay, now it's better this way that I want to do it, and then the other way, right? I highly recommend backing up your objects as you're going, and then when you get to the final file, then you'll want to go ahead and clear all that stuff out so you don't bother yourselves with rendering and all that stuff. And I'll show you how to turn off all the rendering and turn off all that stuff and how to lock items and all that stuff. We'll get into all that here in just a moment. All right? You guys liking this so far? Put a 1 in the chat if you guys are digging it. Now you want Maya? Seems very OP. Well, this is actually not Maya. This is Blender. I was just talking about the fact that I have Maya. I actually prefer Blender. Blender is free. It is free, and you can download it right now. You can be following along. You could be in here scaling some blocks and adjusting some blocks and whatnot. The important thing is you want to feel comfortable in the program first, because you're just going to go, oh my God, look how much stuff. By the way, we're just in one mode. There's a ton of different modes along the top. Am I going to go show you every single tool and every single thing? No. I am not going to do that. You know why? Because that doesn't matter. You know what matters? The basic concepts. And I feel like this is the biggest problem with teaching today, is that they teach you all the tools and all the things and blah, 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 blah. And they don't just get to the point where you can just do stuff, right? That's the difference you're going to get from me. You're going to get to doing stuff straight away, like the ability to scale this object down and move it. Now, we're actually not going to use this object. We're going to make our own object, and we're going to go up here to our storage. Now, you guys may not be able to see it up there, but for those of you who are watching it in 1080, you can see it pretty good, but I'm just going to explain what I'm doing as I'm going along. So first thing I'm going to do is change the name of that collection up there to camera and light right there. Now, in here, there's this cube object. Now, this cube object, we've got a few symbols over here to the side, right? We've got an eye, which hides it and shows it. So now you know how to hide and show objects. Now, of course, if you've ever used Illustrator or Photoshop, any of those kind of programs, or you know, iterations of those or free programs of those, you know all about the little eye and that you can hide and show objects. So that's really easy to do. Now, there's also another object that's next to it. It's a little camera. Now, I don't want this to show up when I render, right? Now, if I go ahead and hit 0, I hit the 0 key to go to camera mode, and I go render right now. Remember, I'm on my new machine, so it renders like nobody's business, everybody. That 4090 is pretty sweet. And so, boom, it rendered it. But I don't want it to render it when I go and make the object I'm going to make here. I'm going to show you a bit on how to do some basic objects, adjusting basic objects, all that kind of fun stuff. But if I don't want it to show, I can just turn that little camera off, and way up there in that upper right corner. If you guys can't see where I'm at, I'll go ahead and pull my arrow up over here and show you guys where I'm working. I'm working right up here in this corner, right up here in this top edge over there. So what we're going to do is just turn that camera off, and when we go to render, there ain't nothing there because it's got nothing to render because there's no objects. So you can see that it does it. Now, if I add an object, let's say I go ahead and go add. Now, how do you add objects? You go up to the menu up at the top. Also, good to know that I'm in the layout mode, everybody. I'm not going to cover all these other modes. It's just way too deep to cover all those modes. But I'm going to stay in the layout mode for right now. I click on the add menu. I go to mesh, and I have 2D objects, and I have 3D objects, right? Important to know the difference, right? They're curves and solids. So what we want to do is go ahead and say, let's add a sphere in here. Now, there's a sphere there. You just can't see it. You know why you can't see it? Because it's inside the cube. Now, again, I can go up here to the cube, and I can hide the cube, and now we can see the sphere, right? There it is. Easy, easy. And, of course, we can hit G. We can move it around. We can lock it to a certain axis and move it forward. We could R to rotate it, or we could rotate it along the Y, or we could go ahead and rotate it along the Z, which is spinning it like a top. Or we just hit escape to cancel all of that. Or we could go up here and say, you know what, move that right back to where I had it before by putting it at the 0, 0, 0 center axis, which is the basically the center of all the grid, right? The very back in the center itself. Now, this object, I can go in and modify and adjust and do things. But that's how you add an object. How do you take out an object? Well, on your keyboard, there's 2 deletes. There's the big delete, which is above your return, right? It's a couple keys above your return. You hit that, guess what happens? Nothing. Absolutely nothing happens if you hit that. Now, there's a little delete that's over by where your home key is and all of that stuff, your insert, your home, your page up, page down, if you have an extended keyboard. You just hit that smaller delete, and it deletes the object just like that. And you're like, well, Kismet, how do I delete it if I don't have one of those? Well, you can go ahead and right-click on the object and go right down here to the bottom and then choose delete right over there. Or you can just hit X as well. And that works no matter what, whether you have a big keyboard or not, right? You just hit X and delete it out. I can also go Control-Z for undo and bring it right back again. Or say, you know what, I changed my mind. Shift-Control-Z to redo. Command-Z to undo. Shift-Control-Z to redo. All right, so I told you view stuff. I've told you how to move, rotate, and scale stuff and how to do it specifically. and how to undo and redo objects. All of these things are vital foundations for any program, not just this program, but any program for sure. Yeah, lots of ones. There we go. Now, let's go ahead and also work with some 2D objects. So I'm going to hit delete, take that out, and I'm going to go ahead and add a circle here. Now, as you can see, we've got a circle. Now, what I'm going to do is hit 7, and 7's going to look at it from the top view down, right? And we can see it up there in the upper left-hand corner. It says top orthographic, and I'm looking straight down at this circle. Now, here's the part that's going to blow your mind, everybody. Circles are awesome starter for a whole bunch of things. Maybe you want to go in and make a sign, right? Watch this as I can control the amount of segments and vertices that it has, including all the way down to a triangle, which would be 3. Of course, a stop sign would be like 8, or actually I think it'd be 10. Yeah, 10 like that. And again, you could have different shaped objects. You want a diamond? Boom, you got a diamond. Let me zoom way in on that so you guys can see that again. Hold on. Let me zoom in on it. Oh, come on, fingers work together. There we go. There it is there. And again, I'm adjusting it over here in the box. So this right here, this little box is very, very important. Now, you're like, kidding me, you just did a whole bunch of things. Back up. All right, I will. Here we go. We're going to do it again. Add, mesh, and then circle. Boom, circle added. Now, bottom left corner right here, this little box, there's a little arrow there. Normally, it's closed by default, but if you click that little arrow, it'll stay open. And then you can adjust the vertices. Right now, I have 44 vertices. By the way, I can make this 500 vertices, which you don't want to do it, but that's way too many. And we're going to use this, the triangle. We're going to turn a circle into a triangle. But again, we can adjust this. I'm adjusting this number right here, the number of sides of an object. So diamond, triangle, etc., etc. You can control the edges of the sides. Why is that important? Well, you'll see why that's important here in just a moment. So I'm going to set it to 3, and that's going to give us a 2-dimensional object that's basically going to be a triangle. Now, what is it we're going to build today to really give you a deeper understanding? Because I could just tell you all the tools, but that's nothing, everybody. Doing is learning. And you're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to get stuck. You're going to go, why can't I do this thing? And then you know what? Google's your friend, everybody. Go to Google, go to YouTube, search that stuff up if you get stuck. I'm going to try to keep you from getting stuck too much, but inevitably I get stuck too. Everybody does. Don't worry about it if you do. We're gonna try to help you at least get started. So I'm going to adjust that with a triangle. Now, if I rotate this, you can see it's a 2-dimensional object, right? It's on the plane, and it's perfectly in the center of the axis, right? So our X, Y, and Z. So you want the center to be right there. Now, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to work on our fun detect it. Now I'm going to show you how to make it into a triangle, which I just did by you're going to put a circle down and adjust how many sides it has. And then we're going to make the outer edge. I'm going to show you how to go in and make this grid because this is like an LED grid. And then I'm going to show you how to color the different things separate, even though they're all one object, which is an important thing to know in any 3D program because it makes it easier to manage and things of that nature. So that's what we're going to work on. We're going to work on a little bit of our fun detected. So again, doing is learning, everybody. So the first thing we want to do is, of course, make our triangle. So we've made our triangle. We don't need this anymore. We're going to close that down so it's not distracting. And we're going to hit 7. So we're looking straight down from the top view, nice and square. Now, it's going to be kind of hard for you guys to see, I'm sure, if you have a small screen. I'll try to zoom in as much as I can and then move my big fat head over here. Look how nice I am, everybody. I go way above and beyond. You're keeping up at least, which is an achievement. There you go, see that. I'm trying to go not too fast, but fast enough so it doesn't get boring. So there we go. Now, this is a 2-dimensional object. Now, in this, there are some powerful things that you need to know. Modifiers. Modifiers are the best way to get started in 3D if you don't understand all the really deep understanding of it. And these modifiers are incredibly powerful. In fact, these are some powerful things that are from big programs like Maya and a whole bunch of other programs, 3D Studio Max, Electric Image, Strata Studio Pro, a whole bunch of ones that I've owned, Form Z, AutoCAD. I've owned all of them, everybody. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars toward 3D stuff. And so what we can do is we can go in and we can look at all the modifiers that we can use with this object. Now, of course, the first thing that we want to do, because it's not rounded like our object, let's take a look at our object again. We want it to be rounded, right? But before we round it, we actually want to bring it in. bring it in so that it has a thickness to the outside edge. See how it has a thickness to that outside edge? It has a thickness around there. Big time. So what we want to do is basically go in and solidify this. Now, at first you're going to think, well, wait a minute, isn't it going to make it 3D? No, not a 2D object. A 2D object actually offsets it in 2D. So in this case, I can go ahead and say thickness, and I can actually offset the outside simply by doing that. Isn't that cool? I think that's pretty awesome, right? Let's see some GGs in the chat. You know how long it took me to learn that, everybody? A long time. And now you don't have to spend 100 hours doing what I'm doing and learning how to do that simple thing, like just to offset an outside border. Right there. That right there, that one thing right there just saved you hundreds of hours. So again, remember, we're working in 2D right now. So we're working in 2D. We're offsetting the outside edge to the interior edge, right? So now that we've offset that, now before we apply these things, now remember, these are all temporary, so I can change them at any time. If I change my mind, I want it to be like this, I want to be like this, I want to be in like this, right? I can go in and I can adjust those edges pretty easy. And I'm going to go with that. That's close enough. Again, we're not going to do all the lighting and all that other stuff, everybody. We're just going to talk a bit about modeling and getting started in there. And then maybe a future time we'll come back and we'll do all the lighting and rendering and stuff. Because we're not going to have enough time for all that. There's no way. There's no way we're going to have enough time for all that. But there we go. So now you guys know how to take a 2D object and offset that 2D object, which you're going to do a lot. You're going to do that quite often in everything that you do. Now, we've got that object, right? So we've got a circle here, and our circle's mixed in upper right up there, everybody, right up here again. Up there is where we're working. Actually, we'll move that over just a little bit. Right over here. There we go. We're working in this upper part right over there. Just want to bring your eyes up there. So what has happened is my circle's gone in with my camera and light. And we don't want to do that. We want to keep our stuff organized because it's very easy to get unorganized and you just got a bunch of stuff and you don't know what the heck you were doing. So very important. So we're going to create a new collection by right-clicking, clicking New Collection. And this right here is actually going to be my backup. So basically, the next thing I create is a backup file, right? And then I'm going to put my circle in that backup file because what I want to do is create that object, but I don't want to apply it to that object. Why? Because if I come back and say, you know what, I didn't like the border, I put some stuff inside it and the border was too big or too small or whatever it is, and I want to come back and I want to adjust it, you'll definitely want to have that power to come back and do that. And that's what's so great about the modifiers. I could even just take the modifier out and you see that line disappears. Just as easy as that. And again, you go add modifier. In this case, it's solidify, or basically it's offset. When in 2D mode, it's like offset. If you're familiar with Illustrator or other graphic programs, that would be more like offset than anything else. Now, there is another offset in there that you don't want to mess with. Don't mess with that offset because it's like your vertical, your Z direction offset. Don't mess with that. We'll mess with that later, but not right now. Just the thickness. So we're adjusting the thickness, and that thickness is giving us our offset of both of those, and probably actually a little bit more, because we're going to round this here in a second. So there we go. So we've got that done. Now we've got our backup, and then I'm going to make another one, which I'm going to call working, right? And that's the one I'm modifying in that moment, right? So the circle I'm going to keep just so I can come back to it. If I need to modify it later, maybe I need to offset, work the offsets or whatnot later on. Now, the working one I'm not going to use until I start to do things until I start to apply things to the object, right? So I'm still going to keep doing the backup one to start. So we're going to go ahead and add another modifier. Now, this one actually is not called rounding. It's called beveling in 3D, but it's basically rounding. It's rounding objects. So I've added another one down here. You can see it right over there on the side. And it's called bevel. Now, I can go in and I can say the different amounts of bevels and whatnot. But the most important thing you want to know here is these two different options. There's edges, which is the lines along the edge, and then there's vertices, which are the points at the very ends, right? In this case, we want to round the ends, right? We want to round the vertices at the very end. We'll get more into vertices, lines, and faces in a minute when we go to do editing of this, but we're going to go ahead and just say that's a vertice at the very end. Basically, there's a little point right there that's making it, boom. Look what happened. I just changed it from edges to vertices and some big old thing happened. And that's because we can adjust the amount of rounding and angle of that rounding of those objects as well. And so we can go in and say, okay, that was way too much, right? That was way too much. We want to go ahead and adjust it. Now, notice how it's really square. I adjusted it so it's really square. I can go ahead and adjust the amount of segments that it's going to round, and watch as it changes the rounding. Isn't that cool? So the two things you want to think about is your type of thing that you're rounding. So your edges or vertices, in this case, vertices. Okay, so click the vertices, the amount that you're rounding, right? And then the amount of segments. Those are all the little lines in between in there. Because like right now we have like a line and then a line and then a line. So that's only like 2 going right there. I'm going to need more than that. We're going to go up to 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, don't do 500, everybody. The more vertices you add, the more it's going to make your machine pay the price. So don't use a lot of vertices in the beginning. Now, later on, you come back, you can smooth out the object, you do all sorts of stuff. But I would just go 8 for right now, just to get yourself a nice little rounded, maybe even as high as 16, which is another great one. You're going to see it be much better rounded in there, and you can see we've got our basic sign. Now, just so you know, this is still modifiable. I can still go in and modify that. In fact, I put it on the outside. Don't do that. It's going to mess it up. I can still modify the offset of my sign here, and then I can still and this is what makes Blender so incredibly powerful, everybody. This is what makes it so insanely awesome. Don't you think that's awesome, everybody? I think that's pretty awesome. That's pretty powerful. You can see I can adjust the angle, how the thickness is. You can see the distance here by adjusting the thickness of my solidify up at the top over here on the side. And then down here at the bottom on the bevel object, I can adjust the angle of that bevel, and I can make it whatever I want. And so I'm just going to put a little bit of rounding in there, something like that. And it's going to give us our shape of our basic fun detected over here. And that'll get you started. All right. So I've showed you some incredibly powerful things already. I've showed you how to take a circle and turn it into any sided shape. I've gone in and I've showed you how to offset your two-dimensional objects, right? And how to add them in by going to the add menu, going to mesh, and of course adding a circle, which is going to be a circle. And because if it was a 3D object, it would be known as a cylinder, right? Circles that are 3D are cylinders. Circles are two-dimensional objects. Squares, two-dimensional objects. Cubes, three-dimensional objects. So that is right there, a two-dimensional object. So basically, this is what we're trying to build our fun detected thing right here. So we've gone in and we've made our basic thing, right? We've done our two things. We've done our bevel. We've done our solidify. We've made our object. And now we're going to start to modify the object. We're going to try to make the object into a 3D object. Again, you can see it's just a 2D object right now. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to call this the outside. Original triangle. All right, there we go. So I named it up there in the upper right-hand corner, original triangle. Then I'm going to go Control-C to copy it, Control-V to paste it. And you can see that it popped itself down into that working area because that's what I had selected. And boom, now I've got another triangle, right? So this is going to be my 3D triangle. Okay, now at this point, very much like we used to do in the old days with layers or with channels, when you get to a certain point, you're going to apply the things that you did, right? So we're going to go ahead and look at it again from the top view. And we're going to apply some stuff to this, right? So the first thing we're going to apply is that offset. We're going to click way over here on the right-hand side, right over there. Again, I'll get my little arrow over there so you guys can see where I'm working. Right over here, I'm working down there. And so I'm going to hit apply, or you can just hit Control-A. Boom. So that just applied that offset, and now it's permanently set. And that's why we made a copy, everybody. We'll make a copy so when we start applying this. Now, also, we applied a bevel, so we rounded those 2D lines. And then we're going to apply those, and now that is permanently applied to that object. The only way to get that back, everybody, Control-Z, Control-Z to undo if you didn't want to really do it, or Control-Shift-Z to redo if you want to. But we also have the original over here. Now, the backup one over here, I'm actually going to hide that from the rendering. I don't ever want to see that in the rendering right here. So I turn the rendering off for that whole entire backup group. And then my working group, I also don't want to see the backup now, so I'm going to get rid of that. You'll see that I will be able to pull it back later when we need to look at it later on. But here we go. So now we have a 3D triangle. Now, what I'm going to do is talk to you about modes. All right, so we're going to move into mode section now. So we applied all those things. We offset it. We rounded it. We good. Now, there's two different modes. There's object mode, which is where you move the whole object around and you do your thing, right? Now, there's also another mode called edit mode. Now, edit mode, which I'm going to choose in the upper left-hand corner up there, is going to show you all of the little points, all the little vertices that I was talking about. And we're going to go up here and see that, look at this. There's all those 16 segments that we were talking about right there. And let me go ahead and click on them so you guys can kind of see them here. There we go. There's all those segments that are that we created. And those are 16 different segments that go along that edge that we beveled, right? Or we rounded. We beveled those things. They're called beveled in 3D. So we rounded that out. And so now what we can do is we can go in and we can modify these things. I could actually go in here, hit G, and I can move the individual's vertice. I can move it wherever I want. Or I can go ahead in edit mode, choose it by 3 different ways. The first way, vertice, which you saw, and it's that way by default. Up in the upper left-hand corner, right up there, there's the modes. So you have your vertice mode. This right here would be your line mode, so it would select just a line. And then up here, you click right here, it would select the entire face of an object. Now, this object right here doesn't have a face yet. It doesn't have, it's not filled in yet. It's just a line for right now. Now, the face is a solid side of an object. Like if you have a cube, it'd be that solid flat side like a wall that goes around your different object. But we can actually select it by lines or by vertices. So line and vertices, also known as points, like in Illustrator. And you can select those different points. You can move the points. You can hit escape if you don't want to do it. You can go ahead and also use your 1, 2, and 3 on your keyboard. 2 is going to take you to lines. 1's going to take you to vertices, and 3 is going to take you to faces. You're welcome. I just saved you 100 more hours just right there. And then you go ahead and hit G, and you can move it as a line. See how it moves and deforms as a line? And again, let me zoom in a lot closer so you guys can see that happen. Kind of hard to see against a black background, but you get the general idea that it's moving it. And you can see these lines moving in the whole thing. The connected vertices, the 2 vertices on both sides are moving, which is changing the shape of both sides at the same time. Now, we don't really want to do any of that stuff. I'm going to show you a really easy key. Now, of course, if we wanted to select all of this, we'd have to go in and hold down Shift and collect all of these. No, we ain't doing that because that sucks. We're not doing that. You know what we're going to do? We're going to hold down the Alt key or Option key on Mac. Hold down the Alt key and we're going to click. Boom! It just gave us all of that interior one, the interior edge, right, that we want. And what we want to do is we want to take that interior edge and we want to separate it. And the reason why we want to separate it is because we want to knock out the center of this object. Or we could also bevel it in and then push it down. We could do that as well. There's 100 different ways of doing it, but I'm going to show you this way. Now, by the way, everything that I'm doing, you could also do with another thing called geometry nodes. Now, those are a bit more advanced. I'm not going to get into those today. But just know there is something out there that's even more awesome than what I'm doing, all right? Just keep it out there in the back of your mind. Look at that later on. But start with the basics first. Everybody. Get the basics of modeling down first and how you select stuff and how you switch between the different modes. Like, how do I get a point? How do I get a line? How do I select the whole entire thing together? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this object and I'm going to separate it from the other object, because right now they're combined. So the outer line and the inner line are combined together, and I don't want it to do that, right? But the first thing I need to do is think about, well, wait a minute, why am I taking the line out in the first place, right? Well, the reason why I'm taking the line out of the center and separating it into 2 separate objects is so that I can take the center object and cut it out of the first object, right? It's called Boolean. Right? So you take it out of there and you cut it out of another object. Have you ever done that in Illustrator where you've got a square and a circle and boom, you cut that out of the other object? That's basically what we're setting up here. We're setting up that ability. So we use the original line to offset it in, round the edges in 2D. Then we're going to take it and we're going to separate them, and then we're going to make them into 3D. All right. So what we do is we take this object, we go up to the mesh menu. There's another really important one to know. Right here, you can use P, like Paul, as a shortcut. You can say separate by selection. All right, so we're going to separate that selection. Boom. If you notice up there in the upper right-hand corner, it's two different objects. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to back up because I know sometimes it's hard because you go, you're like, okay, you went too fast. Back up. All right, here we go again. Alt key, right? Now we've got line selected up there. Line mode selected. Alt and click on the line. It just selected the whole line. Then we go up to the mesh menu. Then we're going to go to separate. And then we're going to go separate by selection. Again, watch up there in that upper right-hand corner as it creates a separate object for that line. Now, we just separated those two lines from each other. Very, very cool, everybody. Incredibly powerful. Now, you didn't see anything happen on the screen because all I did was separated it up there. But it's very important because if I keep them combined together, it's not going to let me use them separately and then use them against each other when it comes to Boolean later. All right, so now we have two objects. Now, this is where it really is important to name your stuff, everybody. I'm going to click anywhere here to deselect. I'm going to go out of edit mode into object mode, and I'm going to deselect again. And then I'm just going to go check, again, way up here in that upper right-hand corner, everybody. Again, if you can't see over there, I suggest, you find Zoom or whatever, or you watch this back later on YouTube. Or on my VOD as well. You can zoom in as well here on Twitch. But right up here, you can see we've got two things. We're going to click the eyeball right over there to basically, you know what I need? I need a thing that allows me to zoom in. That'd be cool. I'll make a note of that, everybody, in future one of these, a little zoom in tool. I know I could access it through quick access, but I don't want to do any of that right now because it was hard enough just to get the stream going. But you get the general idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the eye on one of them, right? Boom. See, the outside went away. So we're going to say this is the outside, and we're going to rename that outside. And then we're going to deselect it by just clicking anywhere where there isn't an object. And then click the other one. Okay, that's the outside. And then the other one, the inside triangle. And I can go ahead and highlight it so you guys can see it. And you can see that inside triangle is going in and out of there. And then we'll just call this one inside. Right there. And actually, you should really put dots in there for when you're doing functions later. But I'm just going to name it properly, old school way. So inside and outside triangle. Now, these right now have this kind of green triangle thing to it. It's got little square points on the thing, and then it's got like a triangle there. It's not because I'm making a triangle, everybody. That's the symbol of a line or a two-dimensional object, right? And so if I take this two-dimensional object right now, say the interior line or the exterior line, we'll work on the exterior one first. I go here to this little wrench called modifiers, and then we go ahead and we say solidify. Well, guess what's going to happen? Oh, you guessed it. That's right. It's going to do the whole inset inside thing again, right? That we already did before. That's not what we want to do, right? We want to make it into 3-dimension. We want to make it go up, right? We want to make it go that way in the Z direction. Well, the way to do that is to go in and actually convert it to a 3-dimensional mesh. So we're going to go in, we're going to right click, and we're going to go up here to the top to convert to. Now, right now, it's a curve. And I'm going to go ahead and convert it. I think it already is. Wait, it already is a mesh. Already is a mesh. Huh. Oh, I already did convert it. Oh, I already converted it back there. Oh, my bad. All right. So we're going to solidify that. And, Oh, we haven't made it into a solid object yet. It's just a line. It's just a line yet. Okay, yes, I forgot that step. Very important step. I got all off on the other thing. Okay, so now that it's separated, over here, we need to go in and alt-click again, and we need to make it a face. We need to make it a solid object. So we hit F for face. There we go. Sorry, Kismet skipped the step. But I went back and I told you the important step right there. Now, what we need to do is have a solid face there so it's no longer a line, and now it's actually a flat object, right? So basically, we kind of filled it in with a flat face, right? So we'll take that out. Now, we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to edit this one. I like to go out of edit mode just in case I'm in the wrong object. Click this object, and then edit mode. Hold down Alt, click on there. Or, by the way, you can just hit A for all. Select all. Not Control A, not Command A, not anything. Just A in itself when you're in edit mode. That's where I am. And then you select it all because there's only one object there. And then you hit F for add face, right? So it just basically added a face all the way around that outside. And now I can make it into a 3D object. This is the most important thing to know when you're taking a 2D object and trying to convert it into a 3D object is it must have a face to extrude. Very, very important. As you saw, even I forgot that step. And sometimes I do. And that's okay. You guys can learn from my mistakes. That's all part of the fun. Okay, now we're able to add our modifier, a solidify, and then we can add our, oh, and there it goes. All right, see, Kismet does know his stuff. Right over there. Now let's make sure we get out of object mode or out of edit mode though, because we don't want to extrude this stuff in edit mode. I prefer to do it in object mode. There are reasons to do it in edit mode, and there's reasons to do it in object mode. Now, I'm not going to talk about all of those reasons, but we're going to do it here in object mode, and that's up there in that upper left corner. Remember, you always want to look up there when something's not doing what you think it should do. Look up in that mode. Are you in edit mode or are you in object mode? Right? Edit mode is when you're going in, you're adjusting the faces, you're adjusting stuff, you're separating objects from each other so they're separate objects. You're modifying the individual points and lines and faces. And then when you're done doing that, you just want to do the whole object itself. You want to modify the entire thing. Then you go into object mode. And that's the best time to use things like Solidify. Now, Solidify, again, is going to work in 3D. There we go. Now that we have that face. Notice that in one direction it goes down. And that's a minus direction down below the axis and below the 0, 0 or the origin point. And then plus goes up, right? Minus down, plus up. Very important. And you're going to see that I'm just going to, let's say about, that looks good. About that big. All right. So that's going to be the thickness of our outside triangle. Now, one of the things that it is doing, if we go look at it, is that it is going in what I call the positive direction, where it's not actually being offset or going below the grid. One of the things that can happen with your objects is they can end up where they start going downward, or they keep splitting in the center where they're going one way or another. That does happen, and there isn't actually a modifier for that when you go in to do your solidify, and that is called offset right here. So let's go ahead and hide our outside one by clicking the eye in the upper right-hand corner. And then we're going to go ahead and use our inside triangle here to do the same thing. We went to modifiers. We added a modifier, solidify. Again, we're only going to be using solidify and Boolean today, everybody. And we used a little bit of bevel. We're just going to use those three. We're not going to do all of them because that's just too much time. So here we go. So we're going to add the thickness here. But wait a minute, what if I wanted to go in both directions at the same time? I can adjust my offset so that it's both going vertical and horizontal at the same time, so that if we go back and show our thing, we can see that it's going through the object, right? So it's not just going up with the object, but it's also going down and up and centering itself in both directions. And so what you want to do is set your offset to 0, and it will go pretty much in both directions, as you can see. Or you can, if you want it to be perfectly in the center, you can adjust it a little bit offset based on the height of the object that you're adjusting. But in this case, it doesn't matter because all I'm trying to do is punch a hole through that object. And that, again, is called a Boolean. So I want to punch a hole through the object itself. So this is the inside triangle. We've got the outside triangle. All right. Everybody good so far? Everybody following along? Put a 1 in the chat if you guys are good so far. Let me know. If I'm going too fast, you let me know. I'll slow down a little bit. I try to make it nice and easy. Try to make it nice and simple. Okay, there we go. So question, how would you do a biohazard in 3D? Well, we're not going to do any requests for 3D stuff right now. I'm just going to walk you through some of the basics, and then you have to go from there. All right, so we've done our outside shape. We've done our inside shape, right? Now, one of the things that we want to do, again, is we want to take this object and we want to cut it out of the other object. So that's going to be vitally important. Now, later on, we're going to want this object again, and we'll want it unmodified. We'll want it so we can still adjust the height of that object because we're going to use it in the interior of the object as well. So we're going to come back to that. So we're going to want to go into this inside triangle, and we're going to want to make a copy. So I'm right-clicking, copy, right-click again, paste, right? Or just Control-C, Control-V, which does the same thing. So this is going to be our inside triangle, and this one I'm going to rename, or actually I'll rename this one. Inside triangle, at the end, I'll name it cutout. Now I'm also going to create another collection, and I'm going to call that collection cutout. And then I'm going to move that way up here to the top. Now, the reason why I created a separate collection for the cutout is the cutout itself I'm going to hide this other one that I just created as well. The cutout should not render. You don't want to see it in the render. So you want to go take the little camera, really on the top part, and turn that off so it doesn't render on the thing. Now, if I leave it on and I go to render right now, we're not going to see anything but the two things. We don't want to see this. So if we don't want to see that, we can just turn that on, turn off the camera, and that will then. Oh wait, I got two of them showed. Turn the other one off right here. There we go. There we go. So you'll see that it doesn't show up, right? Because we had two of them. I had to turn the camera off on both if we don't want to see them right now. We're going to go ahead and use this inside triangle to cut out of this triangle here. Now, again, we can stack modifiers. We continuously stack them on top of each other. So we want to take another modifier. I'm going to add a modifier of Boolean. Now, Boolean is an incredibly powerful thing and also a great way of screwing up everything. Boolean is wonky to the biggest degree. Yeah, it's like a fidget spinner. There you go. It is pretty wonky, but you can use this little eyedropper over here to click on the object that you want. There's also just, you click on the square. I don't know why anybody would click on the eyedropper. Just click on the square and it gives you a list of all your objects. I don't know why you just want to see their list of your objects and click on them. I don't know. That seems way easier to me. And because I named it cutout, I know exactly which one I want, right? I want the cutout one. And there we go. It's cut out. And you're like, well, Kismet, it doesn't look cut out. But if you watch really, really closely, and I'll show you with the Boolean off. Let's see if we turn that off. You see what's happening? If I turn that on and off, there we go. If I turn that on and off, you see there's a line forming here. See this line? Because it just created a vertice, created a bunch of segments there of where it cut out of that other object. So that's how you know it's working. If you see this other cutout, if you don't see that cutout, your Boolean is not working. But I know it's working simply by that. Now, what do we need to do? Well, we need to hide the cutout now, right? We don't want to see the cutout anymore. Also called a die cut in printing, by the way. Boom, there you go. We just cut it out. Just like that. Now, you need to keep your cutout until you apply it. If you apply it, then it's permanently applied. But if you get rid of your cutout over here, then it will no longer work. And then, boom, your thing will just heal itself magically in there because it'll have nothing that's cutting out of the other object. And see how we perfectly made that aligned to each other. Now, since we also have the backup triangle, which is here in the center, right? Because we made a backup, right? We made an inside, we had an inside triangle and then an inside triangle cutout, right? So we have two of them, right? One's cutting out the center and one now is going to be the center of the object. So we go back to our other triangle here and we say, you know what? We're going to adjust the thickness of this to adjust it so it's inset in the object. Like that. Pretty cool, I think. Pretty cool way of doing that. And of course, we look at it, we go over here, we press 1. We can look at it from the front and say, oh, wait a minute, that object is not perfectly in the center. We can hit G, we can hit Z, and we can move it so it's perfectly centered with our other object, just like that. Or we can do it through our transform up here and use our magic numbers to make it perfect. And then again, we could adjust the thickness of it so that it's only so thick and on both sides. And I'd move it up just a little bit more as well because I'm just nitpicky. And there we go. So on both sides, it's cut out on both sides. So we flip it over on the back, we're going to see that same kind of cutout very equally on both sides. So there's our cutout there. So very nice. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take this same object and we're going to make a 3D grid on it, right? We're going to go ahead and make a bunch of little LEDs the super easiest way, everybody. Not going to make every single one. Holy mackerel. Don't even think about doing that, everybody. Don't even think about doing that. That's way too much time. You don't want to do it the slow way. You want to do it the way in which Kismet is going to hook you up. You ready? We're going to use something called arrays. Arrays are awesome. All right, so now that we've got our two objects that we want, and I'm just going to give them a different coloring, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about texturing, and we're going to come back to it later. But all you need to do is click on this little circle down there. It's called Material, and then I can just go New, and then I can go ahead and just give it any color I want by clicking the little base color there, and I'm going to go ahead and apply it to blue. And you're like, Kismet, it didn't turn blue. Well, there's a bunch of view things in the upper right-hand corner up here that you're going to need to know about. Right now, I'm in viewport shading, which is just a flat shading, right? I can also go to wireframe. Very important to know. You're like, well, Kismet, why did you show me that first? Because that's very confusing. So we need it about right now. Right about now, you're ready for it. All right? So wireframe, shaded view. Now we can see it in color. And then also a really nice viewport with shading. Notice that this part does not have shading, natural light shading from the lights that we have in the thing, and this has more shading based on the lighting in the actual thing. Now me, while I'm working, I like to be in the viewport shading. I specifically put it in the other one so we wouldn't start with it shaded. But now you get the idea. Okay, so there's that, and then we want to go ahead and just change it. Now again, I'm just choosing random colors right now. Just to make it easier for me to see the different objects. Let's say green in that middle object. And so give it some color just to give it a really easy and obvious visual clue to you, right? This is called gray boxing. Gray boxing is when you just box things out and you're not being too detailed. You're just boxing it out. And again, we ain't going to get super detailed because we can also bevel the edges of this to round out the edges the other way. Not just the top part of it, but we could also bevel it in other directions as well, along the actual edges of it. And you can just add another modifier to do that later on, but we're not going to do that in this one. We're just going to start basic here, everybody. Start with a basic. Now, we're also going to go back to the top view, and you can see now it just looks 2D, right? Just looks 2D, but we know that it's not 2D. We know that other one is just offset down from it, and it's sitting in between the object that we made. And again, the stuff that I'm showing you, everybody, literally cost me hundreds of hours of learning, especially all the 2D stuff where you can use modifiers on 2D objects, not just 3D objects. So very, very important stuff to know. And then once you have that going, now all we need is an LCD grid and then color in all the LCDs and bada bing, bada boom, we're done, right? Seems easy. So we're going to go ahead and hide this for just a second. And we're going to go ahead and add another object, this time a 3D object. We're going to go ahead and add a UV sphere here. Now, there's two different types of spheres, by the way. There is a UV sphere and an icosphere. I'm going to use the UV sphere because that was just the default that you mostly use. Now, I'm also looking from the top view, so I entered it in the top view. Now, what we're going to need to do, because the size of this object is way smaller than this, you can't even see it. I just turned it back on, but you can't see it. We're going to need to scale that down. So I'm going to hit S. And I'm going to scale it down in X, Y, and Z at the same time. And you can see over here in our scale thing, upper right-hand corner there, that it did scale down to 0.06% of its original size down. Let's get the outside triangle so we can see its overall size versus our triangle. Still way too big. So let's go ahead and scale it down a little bit more. And I'll zoom way in on it. And you can see that it is way smaller, like a little LED light. Now, not only are LEDs made out of little light points or little bulbs, but so are all pictures as well. So if you're in Photoshop, it's made up of little squares that are pixels, right? You're probably very familiar with pixels, but also LEDs are the same way. They're all made up of little tiny lights, and they're just so small that normally you can't see them. So when if you're right now looking at an LED monitor, then you're looking at tiny little lights. This is so entirely small. Get a magnifying glass and take it up to your LED TV or up to your monitor. You'll see all those little tiny little lights in there. So that's what we're going to simulate. We're going to simulate those little tiny lights by putting those circles in there. Now, again, you can use geometry nodes for the same thing. You definitely want to learn about those later, but we're just talking about the basics of modeling and the basics of getting around in Blender. So the first thing I'm going to do is take this object and get it somewhat close to the size, right? So it's close. We can always modify it later. Now, there is a really powerful feature in this program, and it is called array. So we're going to go in here, and we're going to go ahead and say array. What did it do? It just created another one. Now, I'll take it out. I'll add it back in again, under generate array. It just added another one of those. Now, I actually don't want it to go in the X direction, because we can see the red line is the X direction, so it's going X plus right there. I want it to go in the Y direction, so I'm going to get 1, and oh, wait a minute, it went up. I don't want it to go up, and actually I want it to move over this way, so I'm going to take out the X. I'm going to put X to 0, Y to 1. Now, I actually don't want it to go up. I want it to go down, right? Because I want this to be the top left object eventually. So I'm going to use a negative number, so -1 right there. Now, they're a little close to each other. I don't know if I want them right up on next to each other. So I want to go ahead and make them maybe just a little bit further. So I'm going to say -1.3. And there we go. Now we got a little separation between the bulbs. And again, you can go in and fine tune it however you want, simply by just going right over here on the right side here of your array. And I can just adjust those things. That's where I'm adjusting it, way over there on the side. Again, I'll get my red arrow out here so you guys can see, for those watching on mobile, it's right over here in this little side box that I'm adjusting right over there. Okay, so again, we'll just say -1.3. Okay, just to give us enough offset. Now, if we go zoom out and look at the size compared to the square, it's nice and small, which is pretty awesome. And then we can also go ahead and say, you know what? I want more than just 2. I want to have a whole bunch. What if I wanted 20? Well, over there on the right side, I can just type in 20, and boom, now I've got 20 of them. That's pretty powerful, everybody. That's one of the most powerful features in the game, or in the program. I don't know why I always say game. It's so many years of playing games, everybody. So now what I can also do, let's get out of there. What I can also do is find that sphere right here, click the sphere, hit G to move, and hit Y to go straight up and down. Or in this case, it's not really up and down, it's really along the flat edge of the thing. And I'll actually show you by going into 3D, and then I'll say G, and then I'll say Y, and then it will move it like that, right? Now, we also have an inner object inside, which is our inside triangle, and you can see that it's inside it, right? We want to move it up too. So we'll say G, and then we'll use Z, which is the Z direction, and we'll move it up so it's up on top of it, like this. So it creates a little grid on top of that object. And right now you can also see that up here, it actually goes inside the top of this edge too, because we left a little bit of a lip there so we can put all of our little LEDs in there as well. So now we've gone in that direction, and we can go ahead and move this down just a little bit so that top LED is right there. Now, one of the things that is the most powerful thing that you can do in here, and I'll look at it from the top view by hitting number 7. One of the things that's most powerful in here, everybody, is the fact that you can array an array. That's right. So I can array this array. So I can go in and add another one on top of this one, and now look, it's going in the other direction. And I can do the same thing. So I just created a giant grid of objects in just a few seconds, everybody. And again, these are the things that you need to know, because these are the things that save you massive amount of time when you're doing 3D, when you're doing really anything, is the ways of doing it simply. I feel like you could do this 100 different ways, especially through geometry nodes would be pretty awesome. But the easiest ways I find are typically the best ways. And I'm just showing you not only what I'm building, but I'm also showing you some of the basics of modeling, some of the basics of making objects and adjusting objects. Now, I kind of feel like these are a little too big, right? And you're like, Kismet, now you got to redo all of that, right? No. All I have to do is select the original sphere there, hit S to scale, and all of these scale along with it. They all scale down along with that object. Because they're all connected to that one object. So it's making all the rest of this from the one object. And this is what makes Blender so incredibly powerful, everybody, is that you can adjust this and readjust it 1,000 times, however you want. And it just makes it so incredibly awesome. So big love to them, by the way, everybody. Big love to them for all their hard work and everything that they've done in here as well. Now, let's say we want to do this. We're going to do this 53 across, right over there. And this one over here, we're going to do, let's see, 56 this way. And yes, I already figured this out ahead of time, just to save us some time. All right, so we want to do that, and we want to get this grid, this giant grid of circles or spheres to fit inside here. So the way we do that, of course, is to go to, again, to our sphere here, and then we scale it down. Whoa, scale it up in that case. Whoa, easy, easy. Got to move my cursor further away. If I'm too close, it does that. All right, so there we go. There's our grid right there. And we can see that that grid doesn't quite fit in there, right? So we'll go ahead and we'll scale that grid up a little bit more to try to get it to fit. Maybe a little bit this way. We'll line it up here on the left and then on the top. That'll help us out a little bit. Then we scale it up. And then now we've got that grid much better fit in that thing. Now, one of the things that you need to know is how to take objects out, how to add objects, how to select objects, especially in edit mode. Now, we have a bunch of extra circles that we don't want, right? So we're going to go in and we're going to call this LED lights original. All right. And then we're going to take our LED lights original and we're going to put it in our backup and it's going to vanish. You're like, oh God, where'd it go? That's just because it's hiding it right now. I can go ahead and bring it back up. And then I'm going to also do it again. I'm going to copy and I'm going to paste. I could just go Control V and Control C as well. I'm going to put this down in my working one. Where I am. Now, of course, you can figure out your own organization, everybody. This one here is going to be the modified one, right? So I'm just going to put mod on there. And this is my style of production. Again, there's 1,000 different ways of designing your own style. But because I put the original one into the backup collection, it's not going to show it in the render, right? So it's not going to show that in the render at all. In fact, I could just turn that off so I don't see it. Because there's two of them overlapping each other right now. Now, I'm going to go to the LED lights here, and I'm going to make a change to these LED lights. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and turn off these other two so I don't see those right now. And I'm going to go into the edit mode. Now, what I want to do is I want to take this, and I want to take out all the other LED lights. I want to take all those out. I don't want to mess with them, right? And again, this is a great example of using your edit mode. Now I'm going to go back to object mode for a second, and I'm going to go over here to my arrays, over here on the right side, right over there on that side. And I'm going to say apply that first grid, and I'm going to apply the second grid. Now, I no longer have the ability to adjust the grid. Now the grid is set in the way it is. Now that's why I have a backup, because I changed my mind. So, well, now I want it to be 20 by 30 or 40 by 90 or 100 by 27. I don't know. Whatever you want, you've got a backup you can come back to. Important to have those backups. You can also save version numbers as you go along. Very important. Now, I haven't saved it all, but I would save way more often if I was going to keep this. I've already made a file that's going to save us some time later on. So we're just, because again, we're only going to spend a couple hours doing this. We could spend an infinite amount of time doing this, everybody. Okay, so that object is now a bunch of spheres. There's just a ton of them everywhere. Now, we can go into the edit mode. We can see now that they are all individual objects. Meaning that they're not copies of the original. If I hit L, it's going to select any object that's under my cursor. It's going to select the whole thing. And I can just hit delete. Delete. Oh, there we go. Delete, and then I choose faces, and then boom, that object is gone. Just like that. Now, do I want to take that one out? Probably not. Probably not. I don't know which one to take out. Which one am I supposed to take out? Well, of course, we would want to go in and... we want to go in and have some sort of template. So we'll go ahead and bring up our outside triangle. So now we have a bit of a template of what we want. Now I would go back to wireframe mode, which I did in the upper right-hand corner up there. You can see my little cursor moving around up there, which is wireframe mode. So I can see the line. There's a line there. It's probably hard for you guys to see. But there's a black line there that tells me where the bulbs are on the inside or the bulbs are on the outside. Now, I didn't really go through and do all the perfect spacing on these because I'm going to show you some tricks in here, and then I'm going to pull up a file that's going to save us from the time of me selecting every little tiny little thing. Because that takes a little while, and we don't need to spend all that time on stream doing all of that. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and use my lasso over here, and I'm going to lasso a whole bunch of this stuff like this. Now, one of the things you can see that happens, again, I'm in edit mode. So I selected the object. Let's back up. We made an array of spheres, right? Then we applied those arrays. So now it's actually a bunch of spheres instead of just being an array of spheres. And then now what we're going to do is we went into edit mode and we're going to remove the excess ones that we don't need, right? So one of the problems that it does is it'll select half a thing. And when it selects half a thing, that's not good, because if you delete it out, guess what's going to happen? The half of that thing is going to be gone, but half of the thing is going to still be there. Now, what if I wanted to select all of the rest of this? Well, I just hit L, and it selects that whole thing. You just get the object under your cursor, and you can select those ones that are half selected. You definitely want to take the time and do this, everybody. You want to definitely do this. You don't end up with a bunch of faces and half frames and all of that ridiculous stuff blocking your stuff here. So we're just going to hit L, work our way across the edges here. You get the general idea. Now I'm going to zoom out a little bit just to make this go a little faster. And you can see I can go really, really fast. Get all these edge ones here. I suggest, even if you're not sure if it's cut off, I would go ahead and hit L on it anyway, just to make sure. Then we hit X for delete. And we said, what are we going to delete? Faces. Boom. All that stuff is now gone. Simple as that. So I marquee selected it, and it's gone. Same thing on the other side. Marquee select. And again, I'm not going to do them all. I'm just going to do a bunch of them there. And then we're going to hit, again, go through L, 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 all of these suckers that you kind of half hit. After a while, you get real fast at this. You get super fast at doing all of this kind of stuff. Remember, L like Larry. Incredibly powerful key to know in the edit mode. Then X to delete the faces. And then boom, all of it gone. And now you have a bunch of them left. And again, you can see them here in 3D. That we just have a bunch of spheres just all lined up right down in there. Now, of course, so we hit 7 to go back to the top mode. Of course, we have a bunch more that are along the edges. And so we'll get in nice and clear. Now, see if it's half cutting off here. I would leave that one. I would leave this one. This one up here is not really in there. I could just hit L to get that one, L to get this one, and so on and so forth. And this is the time-consuming part where you go through and you take out all of this stuff as well. Right there. And basically, you can take out all the edges of those out of there using that same technique, or using the marquee selection and then doing it. I would definitely do it from a straight-on orthographic view from the top view and take all of those out of there. And then once you take all those out, you can also use the square select box as well. Like, say, down here at the bottom, we just want to go ahead and get rid of all these bottom ones right over here. Let's go ahead and just use this. Boom. You can also select even more by holding down Shift and then using marquee selection, which will select more. Then we hit X for delete, or we can just hit the small delete key, and then we took all those ones out at the bottom as well. Now, what we want to do is we want to be able to go in, and we want to be able to go in and color in all of the little dots that we just made, right? We want to color all those in, and we want the background area here to be, I'll zoom in a little bit more. The background area here to be black, and then we want each of these little lights to light up in different colors, right? So in yellow, or say in like a pink, or blue, or whatever we want it to be, we can go in and we can modify it. Now, one of the things that is tough when you're selecting, especially a lot of small objects, is the fact that when you accidentally unselect it, right? Here we go. Watch this. I'm going to hit L, and I'm going to select this object. Now, I want to select a bunch of these lights in a row right here to create like an exclamation point. Right? So we'll just go through. We collected all that. Oh, God. Oops. I just accidentally deselected it. Oh, God. Now I got to select it all again. Now, of course, I could use my marquee select as well. I could try to do this. And then also there's a great command called G for grow. Not move. Wait, not G grow. What is it? What is the grow command? It's not G. Control arrow. Sorry, not G, my bad. G is move key. Control arrow, up arrow. You can control up arrow again. Now, with a bunch of stuff like this, as complex as this, You definitely don't want to do that because what it will do is it'll take a long time to calculate, like even mine's taking a minute to calculate. I'm going to deselect that. It's much easier just to hit L and select all the things that you want, like this. Now, I'm going to show you something else that's super powerful, and that is the ability to save groups of objects. And within the actual object itself, because remember, we're in the object itself. We're not selecting the whole object, we're selecting pieces of the object. So in this case, we want to go in and we want to be able to save our selections, right? Just like you can in Photoshop. And you can save your paths and you can save your channels. But here you can go in and you can use this little kind of four-way triangle here, or three-way triangle with the little squares at the end. It's actually called data, but really what it is called vertex groups. Vertex groups basically means groups of objects, right? So remember, vertex groups, groups of objects that you want to save so that you can select and deselect them at will, right? Great example is we can create a new one here, way over there on the right side. Again, we're over there. We're going to call this one exclamation X point, just so we don't have to write the whole thing out. I abbreviate tons and tons of stuff just to make it faster. So exclamation point, right? And then you got to make the group first. Then you make the selection. In my case, I made the selection first. It doesn't matter whether you select it first or second. You just got to make sure you have a group first before you do it. And it works very oddly, I think, in the way that it works, where you go ahead and select it all like this, and then you assign it. It doesn't just, when you create a new group, it doesn't just automatically assign it. You have to make sure you press the assign button. Otherwise, if you deselect, you're bumming, because you're going to be selecting all that again because you forgot to hit the assign button and you forgot to create your vertex group before you deselected. And you're like, well, Kismet, how do you know that it worked? Well, if I hit select, it just reselected it for me. I don't know about you, everybody, but this is another thing that took me like 100 hours to learn. So this alone is an incredibly powerful thing. So say I'm trying to select it and I keep accidentally clicking off, or I'm trying to get a certain thing, or maybe I want to take some stuff out. I can very easily add more things to this selection too. So if now I say, okay, now I want to add all of this, and I want to add all of this, and maybe a couple more down here at the bottom, like that. And then I say assign, and now all of those are now assigned. You can see I can select it and deselect it over there on the right side. Select and deselect. So incredibly powerful, everybody. Very, very useful, especially when you're going to apply textures to it later on. Now, say I've got some things in there and I say, oh, you know what? I changed my mind. I don't want these bottom two in there. I don't want that in there. No. I changed my mind. Well, here's what you do. You deselect, you hit L to select, and then you go over here and you say remove. Now, when you click things in here, it doesn't really show you on the screen because you're like, well, I hit remove. Did it remove it? I don't really know. Well, the way you know is you deselect and you tell it to select. Did it select the bottom two that time? It did not, because it removed it from that vertex group. So you can add and remove things. You can even get partial selection of objects. A great example is we could go in and say, look at one of these spheres here. Maybe go into shaded mode, might be a little easier. We can go ahead and just select just the faces of this thing. Remember I told you we were going to talk about faces later? Well, here we are. So here's what we can do is we go in that upper left-hand corner up there. We click faces, and then we click on that face. Oh, I didn't quite click it. There we go. And then we see that we can highlight specific areas of that sphere, and then we can assign that to its own group, its own vertex group, or basically object group, and then apply a texture just to that. Say we want to put a window in there. We want it to be clear, right? We can just select those individual objects, make it a vertex group so you don't accidentally deselect it, or if you need it later. Now, if you don't need it later and you just want to click it and then apply it, you can. I like to have a backup of everything I do. So if I come back later and say, you know what, I want to change that to another color, I can just go ahead and go to my vertex group, select it again, change it to another color. Just as simple as that. Now, to save you all the time of watching me go in and take out all the circles of all the sides of all the things, and then going in and selecting each individual object to make the objects colored, I already made a file that will save us a little bit of time for that. So, so we're going to close that one out. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the fun detected one that I made earlier, just to make it a little easier for you guys to understand. But you get the general gist of what I did there, right? And I made this 1,000 times faster than I'm showing you right here on stream, everybody, because I wasn't talking at the same time. But you get the general idea. So here's what I'm going to show you here, everybody. All the vertex groups that we created, right? So I went in and I selected the exclamation point. There we go. So now we've got the exclamation point selected. You can see I went in and rounded the bottom one, had a little bit of fun there. And then I can also deselect that one. I can also select the fun ones here. Select. There we go. Fun. Right there. And we can deselect those. And then we went in and we created another group for detected. Right? And all we did is we took the time to go in and select all the little individual circles and then apply them to a group. And that allows us to do different things to those different objects. Now, one of the things that we can also do is apply textures. Now, here's the tricky part of textures, everybody. I'm going to go out of edit mode into object mode. And we're going to go to our materials down here in the bottom right. Now, as you can see in mine, I have a bunch of different things. And actually, here's a great idea. I know a great way to zoom in. Let's go ahead and just take a screenshot like that. And then I can just zoom in on it. There we go. That makes it easy. I just thought of that. And see, you can see I have 4 different materials here. Now, the first material is called your base material. Your base material is usually the thing that the whole object is going to be applied to, right? But I can apply other objects to the whole entire thing. Right now, you can see that the base one is the black material, right? So the black material is assigned to it. And if we go look at this in shaded mode, we can see that this is just a black grid of basically of spheres, right? We can also go to the yellow one and try to assign that one in there. You can actually even drag it out if you want to. But really, this should be your base one, and then these are the ones that you want to apply to the different circles in there, right? So, and the way you create these is just super easy. You just go over here, you hit New, you press the plus up here in the upper corner, you press New, and then you just go to the base color and you change it to whatever you want. Now, if you want it to be like, you know, shiny, or if you want it to be like chrome and all that other stuff, that's a whole different tutorial. That in itself, we could spend a lot of time doing that. But there you go. So now we have a bunch of different things. Now, we could split all these circles into separate circles. Or separate spheres. We do not want to do that. We want to keep it all in one grid and go in individually and just change the colors, right? That's going to make it a lot easier than making it all separate. And then you're in your scene thing. You got like 50,000 of them. Don't do that. I'm going to go ahead and take that other material out as well. We'll take that out. There we go. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to click on the object, and we've already applied our black material to the object. That's going to be the base object color. And then we're going to go into edit mode up there in the corner. And then we're going to use our groups that we went in earlier, like our exclamation point here, that we went in and selected. Again, we went in just individually, went and hit L to select. L, 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 L. You get the idea. I can go in and make a 2 there or whatever I want to do. You get the idea. Now I'm going to click out to deselect. See, I'm clicking where there's empty area to deselect that object. So again, using our vertex groups, aka our data thing here, we're going to select just the this exclamation points, or all the little points for the exclamation point. And then we're going to go back to our materials here. We're going to go to the yellow. We're going to click on the yellow, and we're just going to simply say assign. And there you go. I just colored just those ones. How do we know? Well, if we go out of edit mode, we go into object mode, we can see that we just colored just those spheres. Come on, everybody. That's pretty cool. That's a powerful feature I'm showing you right there. One of the basic features that you need to know is how to get around, how to move stuff, how to scale stuff, and how to modify stuff. And that's what I'm showing you. This is vitally important. And this is the same thing in most 3D programs. I'm teaching you more the concepts than Blender itself. You can learn the program from anywhere, but learning the concepts of how you edit objects, how you group objects, and doing all of that stuff, those are the important things, right? What's possible, what you can do in 3-dimensional programs. And I feel like that is probably one of the toughest things to do it. Oh, you want to see it again? No problem. I'll go Control Z to undo. You'll see it go back to deselect it as well. You'll see it go back to its original color. Command Z, Command Z, Command Z, all the way back. There we go. Command Z. There we go. All right. See it go back to its original color here. Again, I'll go to object mode. Okay. So the base color over here is the black material, right? So I created 3 different materials. I simply just said new material, Colored it with black. Now, one of the things about the black material, by the way, everybody, is you don't want it to be 100% black. You want it to be just a little bit above true black. And that's because if you do it as full black, it'll just be completely flat and invisible. You don't want to have that. You want to have at least a little bit of shading on it. So you don't want to go all the way down to complete black. You don't want to do that in many things in design because it'll just wash it out into straight nothingness. You don't want that. So just go down so it's almost black. And then with the yellow, the same thing. I just created a new, press the plus, press new, shows the base color, went in, chose a color, let's say green. And then I went in and I changed the name of it to green matte, like that. And so I added the colors. So I added the colors. And then previously I went through and I selected using my vertex groups and then assigning them to the vertex groups in there. And then now I can use those vertex group to select the objects. Now, if you notice, I can't do it right now. Why can't I do it right now? That's because I'm in object mode and not in edit mode. See, that's a dead giveaway. You know what mode you're in. If you don't see the ability to select objects that you put in groups, then you know you're not in the right mode. So I'm going to go back to edit mode. And now you can see the add, remove, select, and deselect shows up over there. And again, make sure to deselect first. Watch out, because sometimes you might have some other things selected and you hit assign and then you just accidentally assigned it from this other one, the other one. Be very careful what you have selected at any given time. So select. I've selected all the objects that I put in this group of objects. It's kind of like grouping objects, everybody. That's what vertex things is. It's like, you know, in Illustrator and other programs where you get a whole bunch of things and you group it. That's basically what I did. I grouped all those spheres together in a vertex group. That's what I did. And then I go there, I go back here, and because I have multiple colors, not just the base color, I have a yellow color here. I'm going to go ahead and click Assign, and now I just assign those colors, just like that. So I grouped all the objects that I wanted to color. I created all the different colors that I wanted. The base color is going to be the whole object. The colors after that are going to be the individual things that I want to color in. Okay, very important to know the difference. All right? Did you get that, Sita? Now, I jumped a little bit ahead in selecting and making vertex groups and doing all that stuff, by the way, Sita. I jumped a bit ahead just to save us some time so I don't have to go through and select every little thing. Yeah, you got it? Okay. Now, remember, this will be a VOD on my stream, so you go back and look at it. But I skipped ahead of going through and clicking every single little one. You can get the general idea. You can look at the grid that I selected here and how I selected them in that kind of pattern. And again, the most important thing is the vertex groups, right? The vertex groups, you select the objects using L. L is going to select all the little spheres. And then you assign it to that vertex group. You deselect it. You create a new vertex group. You start outlining the F for the fun. The outlining the U. You outline the N, right? And you got to make sure it fits in there too. That's the hard part. You might want to start with the F first and the N and then do the U last, right? So you're working from the sides in. And then you do the U with whatever space you have left. Right? And then the same thing with the detected way at the bottom. I'm going to deselect that group or just click off to the side. And then I went through, same thing here. See, just selecting all the individual ones and assigning them to its own detected group over here so I can color it differently. Right? So, and also, by the way, you can combine groups too. Say you want to select, you know, the exclamation point and you want to select the detected and make both of those yellow. You could do that as well. And you can have, you know, as many groups as you need. But in my case, I'm going to go ahead again. I'm going to go to this one. I'm going to select it. I'm going to go here to the yellow, and I'm going to say assign. So it assigned it to the yellow, to the exclamation point. Let's zoom in on it. Right there. And the way we'll know is we go out to object mode, and then make sure that you're in viewport shading so you can see the colors. Otherwise, you won't see the colors at all in there. Also, you notice that I left the outside gray. This way you can see what I'm doing here. But if I changed it to black, like the outline should be in the final, you wouldn't be able to see anything that I'm doing. So I made that gray on purpose so you guys could see it. And there we go. So now we got that going. And then again, we're going to go into our vertex group. We're going to go ahead and deselect. Got to go into edit mode first. There we go. Deselect anything that we have. Select the word fun. And then we're going to go back to our colors here. And we're going to apply that, say, the blue.
Hello.
Boom. Now this whole thing's colored in with blue. And we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to deselect the fun, and we're going to select, hello, welcome, Dr. J. Select the detected, boom, And then we're going to, again, go back to our materials over here. Again, working over there on the right side panel. Go to pink and say assign. And now we've colored them all in with the different colors. And again, if we go out of edit mode so we don't see all the stuff, we can see that we've all gone in and we've labeled it fun detected right there. Now, we also go into our camera mode. Right here, a little close there, camera. We go into our camera mode. We can try to get this lined up to be very, very big, like that. And then we go ahead and render it. And there we go. We rendered the image. And you're like, well, Kismet, it doesn't light up. Well, that's a whole different thing. And that's a whole different ball of wax, everybody. Going in and doing rendering and texturing and lighting and all of that stuff. But my goal today is just to show you some of the basics, to show you some of the powerful things that you can do in there. And again, we would just go in and we'd have it illuminate, right? We'd have, we work on our lighting. Lighting is different. Now, each of these different steps that I just showed you are a whole discipline in itself. Modeling is a whole discipline. Texturing is a whole discipline. Lighting is a whole discipline. Animation is a whole discipline in itself. And there's whole groups of people who only do the one thing. They do the modeling and then they pass the modeling on to the next person. And the next person will go in and do the texturing. And then that person will pass it on to the lighting person. And the lighting person will do it. And then they pass it on to the animation person. The animation person will do the animation. So they're all different things and they're huge disciplines in each of those things. But that should get you going a little bit in Blender. And man, we did that right on time. Kismet, see, that's why I did it ahead of time, just to save us a little bit of time. That was good. That was a good one. So that gives you a general idea of that and how to do the basics of Blender. Did you guys like that? When zoomed out, the black edges were obscuring the face shading, but zoomed in, I see it. There you go. Yes, you got to zoom in to see all the little LED lights that you're creating in there. Now, also I would actually lower this down a little bit too. So G and then Z to go down just a little bit. So just the top edge of that is poking over the top. Another thing I would also do is go in and adjust the texturing of my outside ones. So let's do a little bit of that. We'll say new. And then we'll say down here, we'll change the base color again. Not all the way down, but, you know, close to down. We'll go ahead and also, and again, see I have all my stuff organized up here in different things, different frames and things of that nature. Right here, we'll go in. And again, this one, same thing, right down there. And then there we go. Now we can see it a bit better, can't we? Yeah, now we can see it a bit better. And we could go in and we could actually have these different items illuminate. And now you're like, well, Kismet, the whole thing's going to illuminate. No, because you have your vertex groups. You grouped objects, right? And when you group objects, not only can you apply textures to them, but you can also apply lighting effects to them as well. So we can have it where just the yellow ones illuminate and they light up, right? And all of that kind of stuff. So we could definitely do all of that fun stuff and get into animation, all that other stuff. Now, if I did want to animate this, everybody, there is an animation bar right here at the bottom. And we could go ahead and grab stuff like this, and we could, again, group these objects together so they'll all move together. And that's a whole nother discipline as well, because we could add objects that have to do with lighting and with our camera and camera movement. And also, one of the things that I like right here is an empty reference. So basically, I can tie everything to this empty reference, and then I just move the reference, and then everything else moves with it, which is super cool. Super cool. So that has to do with animation. Good morning, Crimson Knight. Yes, well, you missed the whole thing. We just got it going. Please wait. 24-month anniversary mode now activated. Go for it. Go for it. Did it come up? Why is my alerts not working again? Darn these alerts. Thing is so broken. I'm going to revert to previous version. Maybe that'll work better. Ah, there we go. Here we go. All right, there we go. Show some love in the chat, everybody, for the mighty K-Man Mox. Coming in for 24 months of sub love, everybody. That's 2 years on the dot. Got yourself a new sub badge as well. 24 anniversary mode now activated. So thanks for coming in, everybody, and hanging out. Again, this was just a little overview. So let's just kind of wrap it all up, okay, everybody? Now, if you missed it, if you're just coming in right now, don't worry, this VOD will be available on my channel. It'll go right up after the stream here. What we did today is we talked a bit about, first, how to get around, how to see the different views. So 0, 1, 2, 3 on your 10 key, or you can use this little spinny thing right up here to get yourself around. That's very important. Middle mouse button allows you to rotate. Shift middle mouse button allows you to pan your view, right? And then again, I can rotate it around. Again, I'm moving the mouse left, right, or forward, backwards. This is forward, backwards. This is left, right. So we told you a bit about how to get around the view. Very important. Good way to get started. We told you how to click on objects. We hit G, like gotta move this, right? Good way to remember it. I gotta move this. G, boom. Now you can move stuff. See how cool that is? By the way, look, it's still doing the Boolean, and it actually affects the Boolean when I move it. Isn't that neat? I think that's super cool that it remembers that that object is there in the center. So we can move stuff around. We'd hit G. We can move our whole grid around, our whole grid of fun detected. We can use the different axes, right? So Z to go up and down, X go left and right, basically, and Y forward and backwards. Well, it depends on what your rotation of your camera is, by the way. But you get the general idea. That allow us to move it. Say we want to move this way up like that. There we go. We moved it up. Cool. We want to undo it. Control Z. Control Z again. Put it right back where it goes. So we learned a bit about how to get around in your views, how to rotate your views using your Shift key as well. Also, there's an Alt key where you can actually just hold down Alt and just flip the view to the side view, right view. You get the general idea there. I feel like it's pretty awkward. I just use the 1, 2, 0, 7 is from the top, 1 from the front. You get the general idea. We talked a bit about that. We talked about the basics of modeling, how to put in objects, how to adjust those objects, how to put 2D objects in, how to adjust the shape of a 2D object, how to offset a 2D object using your tools that you would think would only be for 3D objects, but they're not. They're also for 2D objects. So we offset the object. We rounded the object. We went in and we edited the object. We separated the objects from each other, right? And then we went in and we added a face to the object. So it's not just a 2D line. It actually has a face to it. So we alt-clicked on the line, got the whole segment, boom, filled it in with hitting F to fill in the face. And then it allowed us to make it into 3D. Then we took two objects and we minused them from each other, right? We took the center of these two objects out from each other, just like this, like that. So we cut the one object out of another, and then we used the object again to have the center object, right? So we made a duplicate of it, and we kept one that was the center, and then one that cut out the center so we could have this offset. Now, you can also, by the way, create one object out of it and then select that inner area and then just push that area down. I've done that way as well. I find all this stuff I'm doing is just to introduce you into the concepts of Booleans and arrays and all of the fun things that you can do. By the way, arrays comes from programming. They use arrays all the time in programming. For all you programmers out there, you know that one. And so we taught you a bit about that. Now, how to edit stuff and how to group objects within other objects. We showed you how to do that. We showed you how to do a little bit of texturing, how to organize all of your stuff while you're working, organize your cutouts, and make sure they don't show up in your final rendering by using your little camera over there to turn the camera off, and so on, and then the eye to turn things on and off over there. So we told you about organizing. We told you about all of that. And of course, we got our final fun detected in the thing. And then we go up to render and bada bing, bada boom, we're good. Now, again, if you notice, if I hit 0 here, there's also a great little tip right here under view in your little thing. Again, you hit N like Nancy to pull that out, right? And then I go to the view instead of item. Item's the top one. On the bottom one is view. I can click this thing right here, which says camera to view. So if I rotate the view while I'm in the camera is actually moving in 3D. So I'm actually moving the camera in such a way. How about I move it like this and then put it at a little bit of an angle? That actually moved the camera itself. So if we go back to the number one view and we zoom out, we can see that the camera here is now looking at it from a different angle. And if I hit 0 to go to the camera, you can see that the camera's right there. And if we render it, it's now going to render it exactly as I just changed it. So very, very cool option. Make sure you turn it off so you don't accidentally move your camera later as well. But there you go. So now we can see it from a whole different direction. So very, very powerful things. And of course, the other thing that you did learn is that you can do modifiers on top of modifiers on top of modifiers. The important thing to know is whether it's a curve or whether it's a mesh. Does it have a face? Is it flat? Or is it just an outside line? The outside lines, when you offset those, they're just going to offset in 2D. If you make it into a face, then you can make it into 3D because it's actually extruding the face and not actually the lines. So the face is what actually gets extruded. In fact, you can really get tricky, and you can go into the side of an object here. You can edit that object. You can click just the face of the side of it, like right here. Oh, it's going to let me. Let me hide all my other stuff here. Hold on, let's get all that stuff out of there just to make it easier for us to see. There we go. So if we want to go in, say, and modify this object. I'm modifying, what object am I modifying? This one. So if I want to go in and modify, oh, it's got modifiers on it. Hold on, let me apply these modifiers first because we have to apply the modifiers first before we can modify it. All right, there we go. Now it's going to actually be the geometry. See, you can see before it didn't have all the lines and curves, but you can go in and you can select the face of an object from the side. We can grab a face here. We can try anyway. Why is it not letting me grab a face? There we go. All right, just delayed reaction there. Okay, so we click on the face, or we click on the side of the object like this, and let's just go get that again. God, what is going on with my mouse? Why is it not selecting the face? Oh, because I'm in X-ray mode. That's why. I'm in X-ray mode. There we go. X-ray mode allows me to select stuff in the back. We didn't even get into all of those modes, everybody. It allows me to select all of the stuff all the way through the object. If I turn the X-ray mode off and then I select, notice it only selects the stuff I can see and not the stuff behind. So I'm usually always in X-ray mode. But to get faces, you got to be out of X-ray mode. There we go. All right, that's what should happen. You should just click on it and get the object. So say I wanted to extrude this part right here. I can just click on it, select it as a face, hit E for extrude, and there we go. I just extruded it. Just like that. I can click on this face, E for extrude. Just like that. Boom. I can do it all day long. This face, extrude it this way. This face up there. This one, extrude. Ooh, freaky extrude. Right there. Now, another thing we can also do is we can scale. So you can scale it while you extrude it. You can do this all day, everybody. All day long. Do this, and then do it while you're actually extruding it. And it actually extrudes it right on the face. And then you can G move it. Say you want to move it up and down. You want to move it up a little bit. Then you want to move it again. Move it out. And so it's offset up like that. I mean, you can do it all day long. Go in and modify objects and really go in super deep. Super deep into it. Yes, those are extrusions while you're in edit mode. Now, then when I get out of edit mode, guess what? It's all going to be one big object. Just like that. Just like that. Now, if I don't want that, I can just go Command Z and then Command Z that all back the way it was before. And there we go, all back to where it was, including all the way back to before I went and adjusted the modifiers. Now, watch out. You only have so many undos, though. So be careful, everybody. You want to definitely have backups of all your stuff. So that gives you a general idea. There you go. I'm going to practice by making the things on my table. There you go, Sita. Now, I would try to practice not trying to make it precise, but make it in its basic shapes. Great example, if I want to do this water bottle, I'm going to make this water bottle in like 5 seconds. You ready? Let's go ahead and create a new file. Here we go. New file. Don't save. Keep the cube in there, everybody, because it's going to give you a size reference. Add a cylinder. All right, and I'm going to take the cube out for right now so I don't see it. I'm going to turn the eye off in the upper corner. Then I'm going to scale by the Z direction, and there we go. I've now got the center of my thing, just like that. Super easy. Now, what do I need to do? I need to make another one, right? So I can just say Control C, Control V. It'll go right in the same spot. G to move it up, and now I've got two of them. Z to lock it into where it is, right? I can S and then Z to scale it down this way. So I've got kind of the lid on there because maybe I want to take the lid off later and move the lid separate from the actual object itself. Maybe scale a little bit more so it's just a little bit offset from there, like this. Of course, the lid's a little big, X, Y, Z wise, right? So I can just hit scale and scale it all 3 directions right there. Now, what if I want to add this part right here? What's this? This is a cube, right? Or really rectangle, but it's a cube to start with. So we add a cube right there. G, Z to move it up. S to scale it down. Now we're going to scale it in the X direction. So we're going to squeeze it, right? S to scale, X to thing. There we go. Squeezing it down right there. G, and then Z to move it down so it's sitting on the object itself. We'll zoom in closer so you can see it actually going into the object. You can see it going through the object and then sitting on the top. G and then X to move it more toward the side, right? So I'm moving in the X direction toward me. Maybe a little smaller, S, and then scaling it, but I want to scale it again in the X direction. Oh, wait, that's not right. What about the Y direction? Oh, okay, there we go. Y direction is a little better. And there we go. And I basically, in a few seconds there, I just did this cup right here. And I got it going, right? Now, of course, you'd want to fine-tune it by adding all of this cool stuff and rounding it, aka beveling. So I could go in, click this object, go right here, add a modifier, bevel, and there we go. Now it's beveled, just like that. I know I'm making it look easy, everybody, but this is exactly how easy it is. And I can adjust the size of the bevel, how big it is, how many segments that it has, and you're going to see that it gets much nicer. Now, there's also a thing when you go to render, everybody. When you go to render objects, and this is going to be one of the tougher things to learn, there's a object 1, 2, and 3 rendering of different objects to the quality level of how well it smooth shades. It's called smooth shading. That's something to get into when we get into rendering, but you can see that we can do that, and then say we decide we don't want it to be rendered rounded at all, boom, you take it out, and then it goes right back to the way it was. And again, you can go through and you can modify that. In fact, you can go through and instead of having a cylinder with all these little segments here, you could go back, make another cylinder, and make it where it's not doesn't have as many segments, or has more segments in there as well. But I find the nature of modeling has to do with using the minimum amount of segments for the biggest return on your thing. One of the first things that you're probably going to do is go in and make 50 segments so it looks perfectly round. You don't need to do that, everybody. You don't need to do it. I'm going to show you why. Watch this. I'm going to go render this thing right here. And you can see that it has that thing going on there, right? That kind of, what do you call it? Faceted edge, right? But you can see I have 3 options here. Shade smooth, shade auto smooth, and shade flat. Shade smooth. It's got the same amount of segments, but it's going to shade it smooth. And then I render it. Guess what? Now it's nice and smooth. So you don't need to make 5,300 segments. You just need to tell it to shade smooth. That's it. I just saved you 100 hours more of your lifetime. You're welcome. Same thing up here at the top, everybody. Right click. And I can tell it to shade flat if I want to, or I can do auto smooth, or I can just do smooth. Notice the smooth does something weird with your texturing. I like the auto smooth. That works pretty well. I find, especially when it figures out your number of segments that you're going to need to make that perfectly and sweetly rounded in there as well. Now you notice there's a box there showing up. That box is our original cube. We need to hide that cube when we're rendering. And then now, and we need to adjust our camera view. Our camera view is looking too low. Oh, hold on. I go over here and to pull up my side thing, go to view, camera view, move the camera view. Oh, let's move the whole camera view. Say like that. There we go. Very nice. Hold down shift and middle mouse button to adjust the view. Get it like that. Hit the render. And there we go. And you're going to still see a few segments in there. And again, it depends on how close you're going to see it. If you're going to see it from far away, you don't need 5,000 segments there, but it takes a long time. You can also see that this object is floating above here because of the shading. You can see that's floating above there. We can go in and we can adjust that G and then Z to move it down. And then it will sit better on there. And then when we go to render it, we can see that, it shouldn't be floating, but it's rounding. So it's showing a little bit of floating there. But you get the general idea, right? So I would do this first. I would go in and just practice making simple shapes that represent what you're trying to do. Don't get all bogged down with all the little details of making the handles and making all of that stuff. If you can get to this point, you're doing good. All right, so start with that. Start with the simple stuff. In fact, just have it shade flat for now, right? Just as long as you can get the basic shapes of things, right? Let's do some other shapes of something, right? Let's do the shape of my phone, right? So we'll take all this out right here. We'll hit delete. To take that out, we're going to get the shape of my phone right there. So what is the shape of my phone? Well, the shape of my phone is basically a rectangle, right? So we added a 2D plane, right, as our rectangle there, as our cube right now, or a square. It's a square right now. Then we're going to scale it along the Y direction so it's more shaped like a phone. We're going to hit 7 to look at it from straight down. So maybe a little further in the Y direction. So S for scale, Y direction. Then we're going to go in and we're going to go bevel. And we're going to tell it to bevel the vertices, so the edges. We're going to tell it to more segments around the edges as well. We're going to say what the offset is to give us a nice little rounded thing, maybe more segments to get it a little nicer, roughly. Now, you've also got an angle issue that you're going to have with a rectangle that does happen that we can go in and fix, but you get the general idea. So there's our object. We did that. We beveled it. It's looking good. We've got it, right? Now we want to make it 3D. Now we go in and we add a solidify, and then we tell it how big we want it to be. All right, so we want it to be about that big, right there. Good, right? Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and apply these two things. I'm going to apply the bevel, and I'm going to apply the thing. There we go. So now we've got the object. We want to go ahead and add a little inset, and we want to push it down just a little bit. Say we got a little edge on it, and it pushes down, right? Then we go in and we go into edit mode. We tell it we want to select the front face of the object. Boom. Got it selected. As you can see, come on, move up out of there. There we go. We've got the front face selected. See, we click it right there. Again, up here at the top, right here at this top mode, face mode, or you can just hit 3 on your thing. 1, 2, 3. So 1 vertices, 2 line, 3 faces. There we go. Now what we want to do is extrude this, right? E for extrude. And what we can do is we can make it go up, or we can scale it with an S. And we're going to scale it inward, right? See, so instead of extruding it straight up, we hit scale. It's going to bring it in. And then we extrude it again, but we're going to extrude it down. Hit E for extrude, and then down. And there we go. We just line the edges of that, just like that. Now, I'm making it look easy, everybody, because I've done it for thousands of hours. Don't feel bad if you don't instantly be able to make it as fast as me. Obviously, I have a lot more experience in it, but just a few things that I've showed you are going to give you a huge head start, literally saving you hundreds and hundreds of hours of getting started in 3D. And not just this program, by the way, everybody, every 3D program. You're going to need to know the basics of how to modify things, how to round things, how to offset things, and edit things as well. Then we can go out of edit mode, and then we can give it a texture by going over on the right side over there to materials, new. We'll go ahead and make this one, I don't know, green just for fun. And then we'll go ahead and go into our shaded mode. There we go. Now it's green. Now, what if we want to just make the interior a different color, right? So we go in and we go to our edit mode. We select the face, the interior face here. We can add it to an object group. We can go in here and we can say the face of the iPhone. Right there. Give it a name. Then we got to make sure to hit assign or it won't do it. The sign button, very important. And then I'm going to deselect it, and I'm going to tell it to select it again just to double check that it did actually assign it to the group. Okay? So I assigned it to the group. Now I'm going to create a second texture. So I'm going to hit plus over there on the right side. I'm going to say new texture on the new button. Base color, blue. I'm going a little bit faster because I just showed you a whole bunch of stuff earlier. So, and there's the blue, and then I just say assign, and now it's 2 different colors. Just like that. And that's a lot of the stuff that I just showed you earlier as well. Now, again, remember, this will be available on the VOD. Again, I did skip ahead a little bit there because it does take a long time to select all the things and select all the little circles and delete all the extras and so on and so forth. But I think that gives you a massively awesome overview of some of the basic. Now, there are 1,000 other tools that I could show you. This is what this tool does, and this is what... Ignore all the tools, everybody. Get the basics down first. That's what I feel like a lot of videos and a lot of trainers go wrong. Is they don't tell you the basics of the stuff, right? Because they already know it like the back of their hand, like I do. I know the back like the back of my hand. But you got to look at it from a new person's point of view. First, how do you get around? How do you make objects? How do you modify objects? How can you color in objects? Those are the basics that you need to know before you do anything in any 3D program. And actually, really, before you do anything in any program, really, even in Illustrator and Photoshop, you need to know how to get around. You need to know how to make something or color something in, and you need to know how to save it and color it in as well, and save it in groups. Very much applies to all programs here as well. Now, again, thanks everybody for being here. Again, this was a special bonus stream. This is a 3D design stream. Now, there will be another one. We'll come back and we'll do some more. I'm going to teach you all about the next stage, which is going in and lighting and animating our little fun detected thing that we created. So we're going to come back and have all that sorts of fun in a couple weeks, because next week we're going to be doing a design stream. I think that's next, yes. A design stream that you guys unlocked from our One Last Way project, or actually from our other project, our Starfield-a-thon project. So I will be doing that one next Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be talking all about graphic design. We'll be going into Illustrator and Photoshop. I'll be teaching you some of the basic concepts of how to use that, including the pin tool, how to color stuff in, how to group stuff, how to get around the basics, how to change your views, how to adjust the page size, all of that important stuff you need to know to get started, all right? So again, we'll come back for that one. This is very fun. Awesome, Sita. I hope you got pretty far on it. Sorry to jump ahead on you there, but again, we only have so much time, so I had to fill it in. This was awesome. All right, awesome, Wombat. I'm glad you guys enjoyed that. We'll be back for more of this in our bonus streams on Fridays, again, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also be back tomorrow, Saturday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with my crew. In fact, let's go talk about that when we get on the Kismet Love Train. Let's go. All right, everybody. Again, go out there and make yourself some basic shapes. Don't fret about the details. Forget the details at the beginning, everybody. Forget the details. Basic shapes: squares, circles, or actually it'd be cubes, spheres, and cylinders, or circles, squares, rectangles, triangles. You get the general idea. You get the general idea right there. Oh, thank you very much for that love, for that gifted sub right when I went out there. Hold on, I'll go back just so we can watch that. Let's go. There we go. Oh, there it is. Thank you, Wombat, for those 5 gifted subs. I appreciate that big time. Thanks for coming in and showing that love. Appreciate it. Who's getting the love tonight? Let's see. DK's getting the love. JPC's getting that love. C-Palm's getting it. It's JC Slater and Skid Plate all getting some love. Now remember, you got those epic Kismet emotes. All of these epic emotes right over here. Boom, look at all these suckers. You just got all those unlocked. All the tier 1 ones anyway. Unlocked. So make sure to say thanks to our love train conductor Wombat right there. Showing the stream some love. Again, everybody, hope you guys enjoyed this bonus stream. Kismet goes way above and beyond. Way above and beyond here. And we'll wait for the Kismet love train to finish first. And then we'll switch back. There we go. All right, let's go back. All right, here we go, everybody. Now, here you go right here. We've got the schedule, which is not rolling up here. Over here. There we go. Schedule right here. Again, I'll be back tonight, Saturday, or tomorrow night. Well, I guess it is tonight now because we're in the next day. Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is about 10 hours, whatever it is, local time for you. It will be 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for me. We're going to be playing some 7 Days to Die with my epic crew, as well as some other fun that I've got lined up, as I like to do, over there as well. The schedule's going to be pretty much the same. And again, another bonus stream on Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with a bunch of 76 Fallout 4 Mega Run, our Starfield Mega Run as well. Man, we're doing all sorts of fun up in this stream, everybody. We're crushing it. Now, also, you can do a huge favor, everybody, for free by just taking a quick moment, popping over to youtube.com/Kismet, because I do stream over there on Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time doing my Fallout 4 Mega Run, so you'll know when I go live over there. It does help support the stream as well. So go over there, hit that subscribe button, which is basically the follow button over here on Twitch. Go over there to twitter.com/KismetBP. Hit that follow button over there so you can see all the stuff I post over there, including giveaways, free stuff that I give away, other contests that I see from sponsors or non-sponsors that I'll throw up there so you guys can win epic loot over there as well. And also we'll let you know when I go live over here on the stream. And when I update things like put new emotes and fun things like that. You can also check out the Discord, discord.gg/Kismet. Become part of my awesome community over there. Become a Teamwork Tycoon. You go in there, read the rules, hit that green check mark. You can post your epic builds or the cool 3D stuff that you've done, or maybe even some of your AI art that you've been doing. That would be cool too. Feel free to post that in the appropriate sections over there. You can also check out the website, kismet.gg, if you want to see my 6 monitors I got going here and all my studio equipment behind the scenes. You can check that out. And you can also find deals and updates and all sorts of cool stuff there. As well as you can find my schedule over there as well and on all my social media. Now, the best way to support the Kismet Love Train, everybody, is over on patreon.com/Kismet. Please take a look, everybody. It's the best way to support the stream. Remember that 95% of that support goes right into the Kismet Love Train in the form of giveaways and other projects that we do here. I put every penny back in the stream. I don't get paid to do this, everybody. I'm telling you. I'm telling you, I've been doing it 9 years. I put it all back in and a whole lot of my cash as well, because I try to scale up my stream and try to make it more and more awesome. Because it's like the thing that keeps me alive. I'm not kidding. it's like the thing that gets me out of the bed in the morning. Like, what awesome things are we going to do today here on stream? Which is awesome. So check it out on patreon.com/Kismet. Now, of course, all those awesome patrons that you see scrolling by over there, they get early access to all the stuff that I'm doing, including guides like this that I do, as well as they get early access to other guides, which I don't even post here. They get to see it first, and then it will roll out typically later after them. And then some exclusive stuff just for patrons, which is behind the scenes on how I set things up and create my different things, my different artwork and stuff like that that is exclusive just to Patreon over there as well. So feel free to check all that out. Again, patreon.com/Kismet right over there. So I appreciate everybody coming in and showing that love tonight. So I'm going to show you guys a bunch of love. Here we go. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 caps for future giveaways. I see all those hydrates. Let's go ahead and hydrate on the way out. Let's do it. My new cup is awesome, by the way. It keeps it cold in there for 3 days. I noticed the ice doesn't even melt in here, everybody. Check these out, everybody. They're called Iron Flasks. They're double lined. It's got tons of ice in there right now, and it's not... no water on the exterior of it. These are awesome. Amazing. It's like 25 bucks. 25 bucks on Amazon. Totally a sweet deal for not having to deal with the my cup sweating all over my desk anymore. And it keeps those ice insulated. And I don't even have to go, because usually every single day I have to go get more ice to keep my throat from going bad. So there you go. So yes, rolling out of here, everybody. We'll see you guys again Saturday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's going to be fun. Definitely be around for that, everybody. That's going to be really fun with my crew doing 7 Days to Die. We'll see you then. Bye, everybody.
Hi, this is Norbert. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button. We'll see you all next time. Bye.
Thanks for watching this video. Keep the Kismet Love Train a-going. Drop by my Patreon and show your support. Big thanks going out to Resident Spike, Rotisserie G, JC Hunter, AMZ, Carlos, Notorious TDK, Scriplin, EMZ, Brando, Blaring Fire, and Dr. J. Click to watch more videos, and I'll see you next time.